heartbreaks. And then along comes this young woman, vibrant, full of life, a little... So, you're an older man. Maybe you're in your 40s, 50s, or even 60s. You've seen the world, built a life, maybe even survived a few heartbreaks. And then along comes this young woman, vibrant, full of life, a little wild, a little mysterious. And for some reason, she gives you attention, not just polite small talk, but real attention. And suddenly, whether you admit it or not, you start feeling alive in a way you haven't yet in a while. It's flattering, it's exciting, and it's exactly where most men start making mistakes they don't even realize they're making. You see, there's something very specific that happens when an older man is drawn to a younger woman. He forgets that he's already complete. He forgets that all the years, the battles, the lessons, those are his power. But in that rush of dopamine, he starts adjusting. He starts softening his edges, shrinking himself down, trying to fit into her world, instead of standing solid in his own. And that's when the dynamic flips. She stops seeing a man and starts seeing a guy trying to impress, trying to be cool, trying to win her. And just like that, the attraction disappears. This video isn't about judgment, it's about clarity. It's about helping you keep your dignity, your masculinity, and your self-respect intact in the face of temptation, admiration, or even genuine connection. We're going to talk about what not to do when you're in the presence of a younger woman, and how a stoic man, a grounded man, a man in full possession of himself would approach this entire situation differently. These aren't just dating tips, they're life strategies. So if you're tired of being confused, manipulated, or thrown off course by someone who hasn't even lived half your life yet, this is going to be a wake-up call you didn't. I know you need it. Stick around, because by the end of this, you're going to see exactly where men fall and how. You can rise by doing less, not more. Number 1. Don't try to be her age. You're not her peer. One of the most common mistakes older men make when engaging with younger women is trying to shrink themselves down to her world, trying to talk like her, dress like her, or pretend they get her pop culture references. It usually starts from a good place, a desire to connect, to relate. But what actually happens is the complete opposite. You lose the very thing that made you interesting in the first place. The moment you try to act like her peer, she stops seeing you as the grounded, composed, experienced man, and starts seeing you as someone trying too hard. And no matter how subtly you do it, she can feel it. Women, especially younger ones, have a sixth sense for authenticity. When an older man tries to be cool by mimicking her lifestyle, it feels off, not because of the age gap, but because of the insecurity underneath. The reality is, your age is not your disadvantage, it's your edge. You've lived, you've failed, you've risen again. You carry something she doesn't even understand yet presents, a deep, unshakable presence that only comes from time in the trenches of life. That's what draws her in, not your ability to name some trending TikTok dance or quote her favorite Netflix show. But too often, older men feel they have to keep up, when in fact, the most attractive thing you can do is slow down, be still, be solid. Let her run her youthful energy around you while you stand firm in your center. Let me give you a real-world example. Imagine you're on a date, and she mentions how obsessed she is with some 23-year-old influencer. You could pretend you know who that is, laugh along, maybe even pull out your phone and fake scroll like you follow them too. Or you could simply smile and say, I don't follow that stuff much. I'm more into conversations that don't disappear in 24 hours. But one sentence, that's strength, that's difference, that's mystery. And that's exactly what catches her off guard in the best way possible. Not because you're trying to be her, but because you're reminding her you're not. That's the paradox. The moment you stop trying to be relatable, you become magnetic. Number 2, Don't become her emotional sponge. Another trap older men often fall into is becoming the emotional sponge for a younger woman, absorbing all her chaos, confusion, and childhood wounds in the name of being there for her. It starts innocently enough. She opens up about her past. Maybe her ex treated her badly. Maybe her parents were never around. Maybe she's working on herself. And because you're older and emotionally mature, you listen, you want to help. You feel like, maybe, just maybe, she sees something in you she can't find in boys her age. But slowly, you find yourself being her therapist, her emotional dumping ground, her midnight phone call when life feels overwhelming. And deep down, you think this is building a connection. You think, if I'm the one who understands her, she'll choose me. But the truth, that's not romantic bonding, it's emotional outsourcing. Especially younger ones will often unconsciously gravitate toward or older men for a sense of stability. But if you confuse emotional caretaking with attraction, you'll get stuck in the most frustrating position possible, the friend zone dressed up as intimacy. You'll hear about her bad decisions, her confusing dates, her mental health spirals, but none of it will lead to respect or desire. Why? Because a Stoic man doesn't entangle himself in drama to feel needed. He provides calm by simply being calm. He listens without rescuing. He offers insight without investment. There's a difference between being emotionally available and emotionally absorbent. One is grounded, the other is needy, dressed up as nice. Imagine she calls you crying about her latest situation, and instead of diving into fix-it mode, you just say, "That sounds like a lot. I hope you give yourself space to figure it out." That one line, it signals that you're present, but not caught. She feels seen, but not able to latch on and pull you into her emotional storm. That's Stoicism in practice. It's not about being cold. It's about knowing the difference between offering presence and sacrificing your peace. A man who's mastered his emotions doesn't let someone else's turbulence pull him off course, no matter how pretty the storm looks. Number 3, never chase her validation. Let's talk about a mistake that quietly kills the respect dynamic between an older man and a younger woman chasing her validation. It doesn't look like desperation at first. It starts subtle. You compliment her one more time than she deserves. You wait longer for her replies. You soften your standards just to keep her interested. You change your tone. You filter your truth. All for one thing, her approval. But here's the thing, the moment you need her validation, she loses interest. You're not just a man anymore. You become a performer. You stop leading and start pleasing. You're not in your masculine. You're orbiting her emotional world like a moon desperate for gravity. That's not attraction. That's erosion. And for a younger woman, someone still learning who she is, still exploring her identity, this becomes a power game. Not always consciously, but instinctively. She senses when your center is off balance, when you're bending instead of standing. And instead of admiring your flexibility, she starts to test more. Pull back, go cold, just to see if you'll chase again. You don't win her respect by being agreeable. You win it by being centered. Stoicism teaches that a man's value is not dependent on how others see him, but on how he sees himself. As Marcus Aurelius said, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Flip that. When you stop caring about her approval, you regain your power. Let's get practical. You're texting a younger woman. She takes 5 hours to respond. You notice it, but you don't panic. You don't double text. You don't send a meme just to reopen the convo. You continue living, training, building. You let her come to you. And if she doesn't, you still win because you didn't compromise your center. The moment you chase her validation, you lose your edge. And for older men, this is even more critical, because your value isn't in being fun or relatable. It's in being grounded, unshakable. That's what draws her in the contrast. Your emotional stillness against her chaotic curiosity. Here's the deeper issue. Most older men chase validation because they fear irrelevance. Society whispers, "You're too old to compete." So when a younger woman shows interest, they overinvest. They think, if I lose her, I won't get another chance like this. That's scarcity talking, not truth. You're not losing a chance, you're dodging a trap. Validation chasing also leads to self-betrayal. You start agreeing with things you don't believe in. You laugh at jokes that aren't funny. You tolerate behavior that insults your standards, all to keep the peace. But here's the paradox: peace at the cost of your identity isn't peace. It's self-erasure, and women can feel it, especially younger ones. They're drawn to older men because they want someone who won't bend to them, someone who teaches through energy, not through lectures. When you stop chasing her validation, you give her something far more magnetic, something to prove herself to. Let me tell you about Tom. Tom's 48, divorced, successful. He started dating a 28-year-old. At first, things were exciting, but he started overcompensating, planning expensive dates, complimenting her constantly, adjusting his beliefs to avoid arguments, and slowly she started pulling back, less engaged, less respectful. One day she told him, "I just don't feel that spark anymore." What she really meant: you lost your edge. After the breakup, Tom shifted. He stopped performing. He started working out again, built a new business branch, reconnected with his mission. Months later, the same woman reached out. And this time, he wasn't the same man. He didn't need her approval. He had become the man he should have been from the start. And she could feel it. That's the power of not chasing. That's Stoic strength in action. You don't need her to clap for you. You don't need her to agree. You don't even need her to stay. You just need to stay centered. And when you do, she'll either rise to meet you or fall away. Either way, you win. Comment below, "I lead from center," if you're done performing and ready to live in your truth. And don't leave yet, because what happens when you stop trying to impress might just flip the entire dynamic. Number 4, don't try to impress. Lead instead. You're not here to impress her. Let that sink in for a second, because everything in modern dating screams the opposite. Flashy dinners, clever text games. What do I say to make her like me? But if you're an older man dealing with a younger woman, trying to impress her is exactly what drains your presence and destroys your edge. Here's why. The moment you shift from leading to impressing, you move from masculine to performative. You make her the judge, you make yourself the contestant, and that subtle shift changes everything. Now you're not holding the frame, you're asking her to hold it. That dinner reservation you rushed to make, that new shirt you bought just because it might catch her eye, that carefully worded compliment you hesitated to send, she can feel all of it. Not in the details, but in the energy. And that energy says, "I hope this works." That's not attractive. That's insecure. Now don't get it twisted. Leadership doesn't mean domination. It doesn't mean barking orders or acting superior. It means direction, presence, stability. And when you're with a younger woman, especially one who's used to emotional chaos from guys her age, what she's secretly craving is someone who doesn't wobble, someone who doesn't need applause to move forward. You show that by leading. Leading isn't about being loud. It's about being decisive. You say, "Let's do this," instead of, "What do you want to do?" You move with certainty, not arrogance. You don't ask for permission to be masculine. You embody it. Let's flip the script with a real example. Imagine you're meeting a younger woman for coffee. Most older men try to impress right away, talk about their career, their cars, their travels. You don't. You sit down, relaxed, grounded. You ask her about her values. You listen without needing to agree or disagree. You don't talk to win. You talk to connect. You don't lead with flash. You lead with calm. And what happens? She leans in, not because you performed, but because you're anchored. You're not chasing her attention, you're commanding respect. Stoicism teaches this in every form. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Why? Because the Stoic man doesn't live to please crowds. He lives to align with principle. The same applies in dating. You don't shapeshift to fit what she wants. You live according to your direction. And if she aligns with that, great. If not, you keep walking. Here's what most men forget. Your job is not to impress Herods, to reveal who you are through how you act, how you hold eye contact, how you say no without flinching. That's leadership. That's real masculine energy. It's not loud, but it's unforgettable. And leadership extends beyond just decision-making. It's emotional leadership too. She gets emotional, you stay calm. She tests boundaries, you hold them. She tries to escalate drama, you disengage, not to punish but because peace is your standard. When you lead with stability, you give her something rare. A man she can trust, even when she's uncertain. The men who impress may win her attention for a night. The men who lead, they stay in her mind for months, because they gave her an experience of polarity, of grounded masculine strength that doesn't ask for approval. So stop rehearsing what to say. Stop Googling the perfect lines. Stop trying to win her like a prize. You're not a contestant, you're the frame. Lead. Comment below. I move with direction if you're done performing and ready to embody presence. And don't miss this, because once you stop over-investing too soon, everything else falls into place naturally. Number 5. Don't project long-term fantasies early. You just met her. She's beautiful. She's young. She's showing interest. And suddenly, your mind starts racing. What if this actually becomes something serious? You picture vacations, dinners with her family, maybe even marriage. You imagine what it would feel like to have someone this vibrant beside you long-term. You play out scenes in your head and none of them have happened yet. But your emotional investment is already real. That's the danger. Because the moment you start projecting a future with her too early, you stop seeing her clearly. You stop observing and start imagining. And that imagination becomes a trap. Here's why. You begin to respond to who you hope she is, not who she's actually showing herself to be. Every red flag becomes just a phase. Every gap in values becomes something we'll work through. You minimize what matters because you're addicted to the fantasy, and when that happens, she feels it. Not in your words, but in the energy. She feels the weight of your expectations. She feels your rush. And for a younger woman, that pressure isn't flattering, it's suffocating. She didn't ask to be your forever. She's just getting to know you. Let's ground this with something Stoic. Epictetus warned, when you are about to put your hand to something, remind yourself what it is. Dating isn't fantasy building, it's data collection, especially early on. Your job isn't to imagine where it could go. It's to pay attention to where it is, and most importantly, to see clearly. When you project too far ahead, you stop being present. And presence is everything. You miss key signals. You tolerate behavior you wouldn't accept from anyone else. You justify things like disrespect, inconsistency, or immaturity because you're already emotionally attached to a version of her that doesn't even exist yet. And here's what happens when you do that. You start to overcommit. You make sacrifices too soon. You shift your schedule. You neglect your priorities. You skip workouts. You cancel on your friends. You drop boundaries, all for the potential of something meaningful. But potential is fantasy. Patterns are reality. If her actions show you flakiness, immaturity, or selfishness now, that's who she is today, not the woman she could become in your mind. And no amount of projecting changes that. There's nothing wrong with having hope, but hope without observation becomes delusion. And for an older man, that kind of delusion costs more than it does for a younger one. You're not just risking feelings, you're risking your time, your energy, your mission. And that's a price you can't afford to waste. Let me give you an example. A guy named Dean, 52, successful, emotionally intelligent, started dating a woman in her mid-20s. She was playful, spontaneous, magnetic. Within 2 weeks, he told his friends, "I think she could be the one." He started changing his routine to fit hers, skipped business trips, reprioritized his finances to build a future. But she wasn't showing the same commitment. She'd cancel last minute, ghost him occasionally, say one thing, do another. And instead of confronting it, he romanticized it, told himself, "She just needs time." Fast forward 3 months, she moved on. No warning, no closure, just disappeared. And Dean was wrecked not because of what he lost, but because of what he thought he had. He wasn't grieving her. He was grieving the future he created alone. That's what projection does. It builds castles in your mind that reality can't support. So what's the Stoic way? You stay rooted. You stay curious, but not committed too early. You observe patterns, not just potential. You slow the emotional pace even if the physical chemistry is strong. You don't imagine 10 years together before you've seen how she handles disappointment, stress, or conflict. Because attraction is easy, compatibility is tested. Instead of planning the future with her, watch how she behaves in the present. That's where the truth lives. Comment below. I live in the real if you're done fantasizing and ready to observe with clarity. And don't go anywhere. Because what happens when you stop being her option is something most men never learn in time. Number 6. Don't be her backup plan or emotional filler. Here's a hard truth most men don't want to admit. Sometimes you're not the main guy in her life. You're the just in case, the maybe, the emotional crutch she leans on when the guy she really wants isn't around. You become her therapist, her entertainment, her safety net, but not her priority. And if you're not careful, you'll confuse attention with affection. She texts you when she's bored, calls you when she's sad, flirts just enough to keep you around, but never fully commits. One day she's warm, the next she disappears for a weekend and comes back like nothing happened. You justify it. You say, she's busy, or she's figuring things out. But deep down, you feel it. You're not her first choice. You're her convenience. And that should never be your position. Because here's the truth. Women don't fall for men they can lean on. They fall for men they can look up to. If she knows you'll always be there, no matter how little she gives in return, she stops valuing you. Not because she's cruel, but because humans naturally devalue what's always available, especially when it costs them nothing. Stoicism teaches us to honor the self, to withdraw from anything that disrespects our standards. Seneca wrote, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you." The inverse is just as true. Avoid those who reduce you to half of who you are. Being a backup plan is a silent killer of masculine energy, because slowly, without realizing it, you start to shrink yourself. You become more agreeable, less honest. You filter your truth so she doesn't walk away. You keep showing up, hoping one day she'll see your worth. But women don't see your worth when you make yourself small. They feel your worth when you set boundaries and mean them. Let me give you an example. Paul, 47, started talking to a 26-year-old he met through friends. She was magnetic, smart, unpredictable. They'd hang out every couple weeks, great conversations, playful chemistry, but she never made anything official. She'd ghost for days, then call him crying about another guy. And Paul, he'd pick up every time. He thought being supportive would win her over. But what she saw, a man she could use to process her feelings, until someone else called. One day, she told him, "You're like my safe place." It sounded sweet, but Paul realized it wasn't romantic, it was convenient. He cut contact that night. 3 months later, she reached back out. This time, different tone. She saw he wasn't there to catch her anymore, and that changed the dynamic. Why? Because Paul reclaimed his position. He stopped being a safety net. He became a standard. You don't become desirable by always being available. You become desirable by being selective with your presence. You're not here to be the rebound, the placeholder, the man she cries to about the guy who actually gets her attention. You're the man who doesn't settle for half love. So what does this look like in practice? If she only calls when she's emotional but not when she's happy, step back. If she only texts you when she's lonely but avoids commitment, stop replying. If she treats you like an emotional sponge, absorb nothing. Let it bounce off. You don't need to block her. You don't need to be cruel. Just withdraw the privilege of your energy, quietly, firmly, without drama, because your energy is not cheap. Women don't regret losing the man who was always available. They regret losing the man who knew his worth and walked when things felt unbalanced. That's the Stoic move. Calm, clear, detached. And if she comes back, it's not because you begged. It's because your absence spoke louder than your presence ever did. Comment below. I won't be her option if you're done holding space for people who won't hold you. And stay right here, because what happens when you finally put your purpose first is what truly separates you from every man she's ever known. Number 7. Never lose your mission for her. This is where a lot of strong men get weak right here. Not when she ignores you, not when she tests you, but when she starts to feel special, when things get emotional, when the chemistry is high and you start to think, maybe she's worth bending for. And little by little you shift. You skip a gym session, you postpone a work goal, you put off that business idea, you spend less time with your circle, more time on your phone. You start responding faster, changing plans to fit hers, rearranging your path so she can feel more comfortable in it. That's how it starts. It feels harmless, even romantic. But what's actually happening? You're stepping off your mission for her. And that's the beginning of the fall. Because women, especially younger women, want to be your mission. They want to feel safe inside a man who's already on one. They want to be part of your world, not the thing that defines it. You see, masculinity isn't about control, it's about direction. The more clear and grounded your direction is, the more magnetic you become. When you start leading with your mission, your purpose, your discipline, your Koj feels it. She might test you. She might challenge your priorities. But if you hold the line, she respects it, even if she doesn't admit it out loud. Stoicism teaches us this constantly. Marcus Aurelius didn't ask what others thought of his path. He stayed the course. He said, "A man's worth is no greater than his ambitions." So let me ask, what do you become when you trade your ambition for comfort? You become forgettable. A man without a mission is just waiting to be replaced. He becomes emotionally dependent, reactional. He lives and dies by her moods, and she can feel it. And once she feels that shift, once she becomes the center of your energy, she will either lose interest or, worse, lose respect. Let me show you how this plays out. There was a guy named Jordan, 45, high-level exec, built a successful company from scratch. He met a woman in her mid-20s, brilliant, playful, beautiful. She challenged him. He liked it. They got close. But over time, he started changing things. He skipped out on business trips, reworked his mornings to match her sleep schedule, delayed an investment because things were getting serious. From the outside, he looked like he was in love, but inside, he was drifting. He lost focus, he lost edge, and eventually he lost her. Why? Because she stopped feeling his leadership. He was no longer the man she was drawn to, the one who was building something, moving forward, alive with purpose. He became a passenger in his own life. That's the quiet death of attraction. Not because you failed, but because you forgot what made you powerful to begin with. Never confuse love with surrender. If she's truly right for your life, she'll want you focused. She'll want you obsessed with your growth, your work, your code. She'll want to fit into your fire, not be the reason you extinguish it. And if she leaves because you didn't put her first, let her. Because a man who stays on mission, who keeps building, keeps showing up, keeps growing, never runs out of options. But a man who gives that up to make it work with someone who doesn't value it, he runs out of himself. So stay on mission. Wake up on time. Take the trip. Invest in your vision. Train when you don't feel like it. Speak your truth, even if she pushes back. Let her feel the gravity of a man who doesn't bend for comfort. That's what inspires her. That's what keeps her close. That's what makes her respect last. Comment below, I never leave my path, if you're done shrinking for love and ready to lead with purpose. And don't stop here, because what happens when you refuse to trade standards for affection changes the entire game. Number 8. She wants a rock, not a puppet. Let's get something straight. She doesn't want you to bend to her. Even if she tests you, even if she pushes your buttons, even if she gets moody, distant or cold, what she truly wants is to feel you won't move. Not away from her, but away from yourself. You see, a younger woman may play with power dynamics. She may flirt and withdraw. She may say, you don't open up enough, and the next day say, you're too available. That back and forth isn't meant to confuse you, though it will if you're not centered. It's meant to reveal you. She wants to see what happens when she shakes you. Do you wobble? Do you chase? Do you try to guess what she wants and give it before she asks? If you do, you're no longer a rock. You're a puppet. And puppets never feel safe. Let me be clear. You can be kind. You can be compassionate. You can even be emotionally tuned in. But the moment you start rearranging your identity to match her emotional waves, she feels it and the attraction starts to fade. Because what she really craves is structure, not in the form of rules or control, but in the grounded energy of a man who knows who he is and refuses to shrink or swell just to make her happy. She wants to test your emotional walls, not to break them down, but to see if they're real. And if you don't have them, if you collapse the moment she frowns or pulls back or makes a sarcastic comment, then she realizes you're not leading, you're adapting. And that's not sexy, that's weak. Stoicism offers the exact frame you need here. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say, or think, or do." That's what being the rock means. Tranquility, stillness, a silent confidence that doesn't need applause or approval. It means holding your tone when she gets emotional, holding your space when she becomes inconsistent, holding your path when she tries to pull you off course. Let me give you a real-world snapshot. There's a guy named Drew, early 50s, grounded, successful, but divorced recently. He started dating a younger woman, mid-20s, energetic, unpredictable. At first, things were smooth, but then she started testing him, critiquing his routines, flirting in front of him, saying things like, "You'd be hotter if you dressed younger." Old Drew would have shifted, bought new clothes, tried to fit in, smiled and played along. But this Drew, he just smiled back and said, "That's funny, I like the way I move." He didn't flinch. He didn't defend himself. He didn't snap. He stayed centered. 2 days later, she asked to see him again, and not because he agreed with her, but because he didn't. That moment told her everything she needed to know: this man doesn't bend, not to please, not to prove, not to perform. He's the rock. Because here's the hidden truth. Most women don't trust the man they can control. They want the man who respects himself enough to say no without anger, and yes without need. They want to feel your weight, not your willingness. And if you're older, this is your biggest edge. Not that you have money, not that you have stories, but that you've done the inner work to know who you are, and you're not giving that away just because she's hot and half your age. That's the difference between attraction that lasts a night and attraction that lingers for months. You don't win her heart by becoming her puppet. You earn her respect by staying the rock she can't shake. Comment below. I hold the line if you're done shrinking and ready to stand your ground. And stay tuned, because the moment you stop letting her pull your strings, something powerful shifts in who really holds the frame. Number 9. Don't buy her time, command her attention. There's a dangerous idea a lot of older men carry when dating younger women. If I offer enough time, gifts, comfort, she'll stay. But here's the brutal truth. You don't buy a woman's attention, not the kind that matters, not the kind that lasts. You command it. Let's break that down. When a man starts paying too much, whether it's dinners, attention, emotional labor, he tells her one thing: my value is external. That if he doesn't spend, she won't stay. If he doesn't impress, she'll lose interest. And when she feels that, she might stick around, but not out of desire, out of convenience. And when a woman stays because it's easy, not because she's drawn to you, you've already lost. A younger woman, especially one who has options, doesn't need a sponsor. She needs a signal. A signal that you don't just have resources, you have restraint. That you're not trying to earn her attention, you're someone who naturally attracts it by the way you move, your presence, your energy, your direction. That's what commands attention. And the Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius didn't write about winning people over. He talked about inner stillness. He said, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. That same idea applies here. Stop trying to perform like the right man. Just be him. Commanding attention doesn't mean being loud. It doesn't mean being arrogant. It means being so centered in your life that she has to lean in to understand what drives you. It means speaking less, moving with intention, and knowing your time is valuable even if you're alone. Let me give you a quick story. Dan, 50, met a 27-year-old at a networking event. They hit it off. She was fun, curious, and clearly used to attention. Most men threw money, compliments, favors. Dan didn't. He set plans that worked for him. He didn't chase texts. He showed up when he said he would, but never overextended. At first, she tested him, took a while to respond, showed a little attitude. Dan didn't flinch. He didn't try harder. He stayed calm, playful, unbothered. And what happened? She started chasing his time. Not because he gave more, but because he didn't need to. You command attention by living a life that doesn't need her in it, but would welcome her if she adds value. You're not trying to earn her interest. You're giving her the opportunity to experience your gravity. Comment below. I don't chase if you're ready to stop buying and start embodying real presence. And stay right here, because once you stop performing for her attention, you unlock something she didn't know she needed. Number 10. Let her earn your depth. You've got years behind you. Lessons learned the hard way. You've been through heartbreak, wins, failures, doubt, rebuilding. You carry scars, visible or not, that younger men don't have yet. That's depth, and it's powerful. But here's the mistake too many older men make. They give that depth away too easily. You meet a young, beautiful woman. She's magnetic. She smiles. She listens. And suddenly, you're opening up everything. Your stories, your beliefs, your fears, your past. All laid out in front of someone who hasn't earned it yet. And you think that vulnerability will make her feel closer. But sometimes, it just makes you feel lighter and her feel overwhelmed. Because real connection isn't built on how much you reveal. It's built on what she proves she can handle. You don't owe her your story, not on the first date. Not because she's pretty, not because she seems different. She may be charming, curious, sweet, but your inner world is earned, not given. Let her show you she has emotional maturity. Let her show up consistently. Let her push through her own triggers before you start unpacking your truth. It's the same reason you don't give a child the keys to a Ferrari. Not because they're not valuable, but because they're not ready to handle the responsibility. You've got wisdom, but wisdom dropped too soon becomes a lecture. You've got passion, but passion poured out too fast feels like pressure. Let her earn access to what's beneath the surface. And don't confuse being guarded with being cold. You can still connect, you can still be warm, fun, present, but you don't lead with your inner world. You don't try to be deep to impress her. You let time, behavior, and consistency reveal if she's even meant to go there with you. The Stoics would call this restraint, self-mastery. Seneca once said, "As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters." The same applies to connection. It's not about how fast you get deep, it's about how real it becomes when you do. And real depth can't be rushed. Let me give you an example. Mark, 53, met a 29-year-old artist. On their first few dates, she kept asking deep questions: childhood, trauma, philosophy. Mark felt tempted to open the vault, but he didn't. Not because he was hiding, but because he was listening. Instead of sharing his whole story, he flipped it. He asked, "How do you usually handle conflict?" He watched how she reacted when something didn't go her way. He paid attention not just to her answers, but her energy. Weeks later, after she'd shown emotional steadiness, integrity, and real curiosity, he opened up. And it landed. Because now she was ready. Now, she earned it. That's what makes your depth valuable. It's not how much you share, it's that not everyone gets to hear it. Comment below. I protect my depth if you're done giving your soul to anyone who smiles. That's it, brother. If you've made it this far, you're not like most men. You're not here just to chase attention or play surface-level games. You're here to lead, to grow, to master yourself. That's exactly what this channel is for. So if you felt any part of today's video hit where it needed, to subscribe right now. Not just to watch, but to walk with other men doing the same work. And if you want to go even deeper, if you want access to exclusive Stoic tools, longer form breakdowns, and a brotherhood of men who live by these values, join the Stoic Inner Circle. The link is below. You'll feel the shift immediately. Let me say this right off the bat. Women aren't as mysterious as you've been led to believe. In fact, once you understand the psychology behind their behavior, emotions, and desires, you'll realize something powerful. Getting a woman obsessed with you isn't about looks, money, or even being the nice guy. It's about knowing how her mind works. And in this video, I'm going to teach you exactly that. Welcome back to the channel, fellas. Today we're diving into one of the most controversial and eye-opening topics in modern dating. How to use female psychology to make almost any woman obsess over you. That's right. Not chase, not like, not even fall for you. I'm talking about obsession, the kind that keeps you on her mind day and night, the kind that flips the script and puts you in the position of power. Now let me be clear, this isn't manipulation, this is awareness. This is understanding the subtle psychological triggers that most men overlook and women will never admit to. Why? Because they're subconscious. They don't even realize they're reacting to them, but you will. What you're about to learn are 7 psychological tricks that tap directly into a woman's emotional wiring. These aren't pick-up lines or gimmicks. These are behavioral patterns, emotional signals, and mindset shifts that flip the switch in her brain, and once it's flipped, she can't unsee you. She starts craving you, valuing you, even idealizing you. Most men spend their whole lives chasing women who barely notice them. After this video, you won't be one of them. You'll understand what really makes a woman obsessed, and more importantly, how to trigger it naturally. So buckle up, because once you learn these 7 tricks, you'll never look at women or yourself the same way again. Number 1. Ignore her beauty, praise her mind. Instead, most men fall into the same trap. They meet a beautiful woman, and the first thing out of their mouth is some version of, "Wow, you're so gorgeous," or "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen." And while that might seem polite or flattering, it actually does more harm than good. especially if you want to stand out and get into her head. Here's the hard truth. Attractive women hear compliments about their looks constantly. It means nothing to them. In fact, they've learned to filter it out. So, when you lead with her appearance, you instantly become another forgettable guy who's feeding her ego. She knows she's hot. You're just confirming it like every other dude. But if you really want her to notice you obsess over you and wonder why she's thinking about you long after you've gone, then here's the trick. Ignore her beauty. Instead, praise something about her mind, her insight, or the way she thinks. Women are rarely truly seen for who they are beneath the surface. Most men are so distracted by how they look, they never even notice how sharp, witty, or insightful a woman is. And that's where your power lies. Say you're talking to a woman who made an interesting comment about a book, a business idea, or even a perspective on relationships. You look her straight in the eye and say something like, "You know what? Most people never think like that. I can tell you actually pay attention to things most people overlook. That's rare." Boom. That's a compliment she doesn't hear every day. It taps into her identity. It tells her, you see what most men miss. And that hits different. The moment you stop drooling over her looks and start engaging with her mind, something flips in her. She becomes curious. She starts chasing your approval. Because now it's not about her looks. It's about something deeper, something she can't easily control. And that mystery is addictive. This approach also creates what psychologists call a value reversal. Instead of acting like you're lucky to talk to her, she starts feeling like she's lucky to have caught your attention in a meaningful way. That shift creates obsession because now you're no longer another admirer. You're a challenge. And here's the real kicker. The less you talk about her looks, the more powerful your words become when you eventually mention them. If you drop a casual, by the way, you're also stunning. After you've already connected with her on a deeper level, it lands 10 times harder because it's no longer empty flattery. It's validation from a man she respects. Bottom line, don't feed the part of her that everyone already sees. Feed the part she hides. That's how obsession starts. Number 2. Pull away when she wants you close. This one messes with a woman's head in a way she won't even be able to explain to herself. And it works because it flips the emotional script most men follow. See, when a woman starts showing more interest, when she texts more, calls more, gets a little clingy, most guys think, yes, I finally got her. Now I need to match her energy so I don't lose her. So they go all in. More attention, more messages, more time. But that's exactly when you shouldn't lean in. Here's the truth that's hard to hear but powerful once you understand it. Women don't obsess over men who are always available. They obsess over men who create emotional tension. And the best way to create that tension is by pulling away. At the moment she starts pulling in, not ghosting, not playing games, just being slightly less available than she wants. Just enough to make her feel like she's not fully sure where she stands with you. That space, those few unanswered messages, that slight delay in plans, that quiet moment when she expected noise, that's where her mind starts racing. Why? Because women crave emotional stimulation. Predictability kills attraction. When she knows she can have you anytime she wants, the thrill fades. But when she starts to feel like she almost has you, you activate a completely different part of her psychology. She starts wondering, is he losing interest? Did I say something wrong? Why am I thinking about this so much? Congratulations, you're in her head. Most men are terrified to pull back, especially when things seem to be going well. But that's exactly why it works. When you resist the urge to smother her with affection and instead stay grounded in your own energy, you show her something she rarely sees. A man with options, a man who's not emotionally needy. a man who enjoys her but doesn't need her. That energy is addictive. Now, this doesn't mean you treat her coldly or ignore her completely. It just means you maintain control of the pace. You don't speed up just because she does. You don't validate every emotion or jump every time she reaches out. You keep a bit of mystery. You stay centered. That subtle emotional distance is what keeps her chasing. And here's the kicker. When you do show affection, it becomes more powerful, more real. Because she knows it's not coming from a place of desperation. It's a gift, not a plea. Pulling away when she wants you close creates emotional gravity. She leans in harder, trying to figure you out, trying to win you over again. And that's exactly where you want her. Engaged, unsure, and obsessed. Number 3. Make her jealous subtly. Now let's get into something that makes a lot of guys uncomfortable. Jealousy. Most men are scared to even touch this topic. They think making a woman jealous is toxic, manipulative, or childish. But here's the truth. When done subtly and with confidence, jealousy is one of the most powerful emotional triggers you can activate in a woman. Let me explain. Jealousy isn't about trying to hurt her or make her insecure. It's about reminding her without saying a word that you're valuable, desired, and not just sitting around waiting for her validation. Here's the mistake most men make. The moment they get a woman's attention, they drop everything and center their world around her. They stop talking to other women, stop having their own life, and start behaving like they've already won the prize. And guess what? That kills attraction fast. Because deep down, women want to compete for a man they believe other women want. That's how their psychology is wired. If no one else is interested in you, she starts wondering why she was. But if she senses even slightly that other women are drawn to you, she starts paying closer attention. This doesn't mean flirting in front of her or bragging about other women. That's childish and obvious. The key is in being subtle and unbothered. It's how you carry yourself. It's letting her see that you're socially in demand, that you don't need her attention, and that other women naturally enjoy being around you. No words, no show, just energy. And the beauty of this is that you don't even need to say anything about it. Women feel it. They pick up on every little social cue. If they know other women are noticing you, they automatically start viewing you as more attractive. It's like a switch gets flipped. Now, the moment she feels that slight twinge of jealousy, two things happen. 1, she starts wanting to win you again. 2, she starts thinking about you constantly, even when she tries not to. Jealousy, when used correctly, keeps her emotionally invested. It disrupts the routine. It breaks that comfort zone and introduces competition. And women are much more emotionally engaged when they feel like they need to secure your attention, not just sit back and receive it. The danger is going overboard. If you try too hard to make her jealous, it backfires and you come off as insecure or manipulative. But when it's done naturally through confidence, presence, and high social value, she starts fighting for your attention instead of assuming she already has it. Bottom line, a little jealousy makes her emotional, and emotional women become obsessed. Stay cool, stay confident, and let her feel like she's not the only one with options. Because once she realizes she could lose you, she'll do everything to keep you. Number 4, act like you could walk away anytime. There's a different kind of power in a man who doesn't cling, a man who's not afraid to lose a woman because he knows he won't lose himself. That mindset alone separates you from 99% of men out there. Most guys, once they get a little affection, a few sweet words, or some intimacy, start acting like the relationship is their lifeline. They hold on tight, overthink everything, and start bending over backward just to keep her happy. And without realizing it, they give away all their power. Women don't obsess over men who act like they can't live without them. They become obsessed with the ones who remain centered, grounded, and completely unfazed by the fear of walking away. That kind of confidence makes a woman stop and question everything, because now you're not reacting to her behavior. You're setting the standard. You're not panicking over where things are headed. You're choosing whether or not she even gets to stay in your world. When you carry yourself like you could walk away at any time, it signals something deep. You're not emotionally dependent on her. You're not here because you need validation or affection. You're here because she adds value, and if that changes, you're gone. That's the frame that drives women crazy. Not in a toxic, chaotic way, but in a way that challenges them. It forces them to step up, to invest more, to wonder how to hold your attention. And that wondering, that's where obsession is born. Because you're no longer predictable. You're no longer emotionally at her mercy. You become the challenge, the one who doesn't give everything away just because she shows interest. That mystery makes her dig deeper. It makes her feel like she has something to prove. And that's exactly where you want her. Most women are used to men who are scared to lose them. Men who try too hard to keep the peace, to avoid conflict, to please at all costs. But when you break that pattern, when you show her that you're the kind of man who won't settle for half-effort or emotional games, she sees you differently. She respects you. She thinks about you when you're not around. She starts chasing that feeling you give her because it's rare. Walking away isn't a threat, it's a standard. It's the unspoken message that says, I want you, but I don't need you. And when a woman feels that, she leans in, she invests, she becomes emotionally hooked. Because deep down, what she wants more than anything is a man who doesn't lose himself in her, but one who makes her want to be part of his world. Number 5. Be unpredictable. Never let her fully figure you out. There's something dangerous about being too consistent in how you show up with a woman. Dangerous because it makes you easy to figure out. And the moment a woman feels like she has you all figured out, the excitement fades, the mystery dies. That edge you had when you first met starts to disappear. Why? Because human nature is drawn to unpredictability. We get emotionally invested in what we can't fully understand. And women are no different. When you're unpredictable in a smooth, controlled, intentional way, you stay on her mind. You create emotional tension. She starts thinking, what's he going to do next? What's on his mind? Why does he seem different today? That tension, that curiosity becomes obsession, not because you're playing games, but because you're not robotic. You're not repeating the same behaviors, responses, and energy day after day. You keep her emotionally engaged without even trying. This doesn't mean you need to be unstable or inconsistent in your values. It means you stop being so routine with your energy and responses. If you always text back right away, switch it up. If you always compliment her the same way, stop doing it so predictably. If you always initiate plans, take a step back and let her wonder if she'll hear from you this time. That subtle unpredictability is what keeps her emotionally alert. Let's say you usually have a deep, serious tone when you talk to her. You're insightful, thoughtful, grounded, but one night you randomly flip the vibe. You get playful, tease her a little. Say something that catches her off guard in a good way. She'll laugh, maybe blush, but most importantly, she'll feel something new. That emotional shift plants itself in her mind. She goes to bed thinking about it. Not because it was dramatic, but because it broke the pattern. Women crave emotional variety. If they can predict every word and every move you'll make, they start emotionally checking out. When they feel like there's always a new layer to you, something they haven't quite figured out, they stay hooked. They invest more time, more thought, more emotion into trying to decode you. And that's exactly what you want. The goal is to never become a routine. Routine makes you boring. Predictability makes you forgettable. But unpredictability done with charm, self-awareness, and a calm presence makes you unforgettable. It triggers that ancient part of the female mind that equates mystery with value. So don't be the guy who says the same thing, reacts the same way, and shows up with the same energy all the time. Be the guy who's consistent in confidence but unpredictable in presence. Because when a woman can't fully figure you out, she starts building stories in her head. She starts imagining, obsessing, and chasing what feels just out of reach. And once you're in her head like that, it's almost impossible for her to let go. Number 6. Trigger her competitive side with other women. Whether they admit it or not, most women are naturally competitive when it comes to men they find desirable. They may play it cool on the surface, but when a woman sees that other women are paying attention to you, laughing at your jokes, engaging with you, trying to be close, something shifts. Your guard goes up, but not to push you away. It goes up because now she feels like there's something to protect, something to win, something worth fighting for. You see, most men believe that the moment they find a woman they like, they should drop everyone else and focus only on her. Be loyal from day one. Show her she's the only one on the radar. And while that seems sweet and honorable, it often has the opposite effect. It removes the element of challenge. It removes urgency. It makes her feel like she already has you completely, and she didn't even have to try that hard. But when she notices that other women find you attractive, interesting, or fun to be around, it activates a different part of her psychology. It becomes about status, about proving to herself that she can stand out in the crowd. Women hate the idea of being replaceable, especially when they're emotionally invested. So when they see that you have options, and those options are real and present, it forces them to up their game. This doesn't mean rubbing other women in her face. That's obvious and desperate. It's more about living in a way that naturally attracts attention without needing her to be the center of your world. It's about being socially aware, charismatic, and confident enough that women are drawn to you, and she knows it. When a woman feels like she's competing even subtly, she becomes more alert. She pays more attention to what you say, how you respond, and how much energy you're giving. She stops taking your presence for granted, and that shift in mindset is exactly what makes her chase. Because now you're not just some guy hoping she'll pick you. You're the guy she wants to keep other women away from. You're the guy she wants to win over completely. That emotional competition makes her feel more invested, more aware, and more addicted to the connection. And here's something most men never realize. Once a woman starts seeing other women wanting you, your value skyrockets in her mind. Not because you changed anything about yourself, but because her perception of you changed. Suddenly you're no longer just a guy who likes her. You're the guy that other women like too. And if they like you, maybe you're even more valuable than she thought. Fearing that competitive side taps into something ancient and instinctive. It makes her want to prove herself, to stand out, to claim her place by your side. And once she's in that state of mind, it becomes a lot harder for her to walk away. That's when obsession begins to grow. Number 7. Give her attention, then take it away. Too many men are desperate for connection, and it shows. They meet a woman, get a little attention back, and suddenly they flood her with validation, compliments, time, and energy, like it's a faucet they can't turn off. And while their intentions might feel pure, what they don't realize is this: constantly giving attention without pulling back is the fastest way to kill attraction. Why? Because there's no contrast, no tension, no space for her to miss you, wonder about you, or even appreciate the attention you're giving in the first place. Look, this is where a lot of men need to wake up. You've been told to always be available, always be nice, always show her how much you care. And yes, being a good man matters. But being predictable, emotionally needy, and always accessible, that doesn't make her want you. It makes her bored. That endless stream of attention becomes background noise. It doesn't register. It doesn't spark emotion. It doesn't hit the way it should. What actually makes a woman obsessed is contrast. It's the experience of getting your attention and then losing it. It's the high of being seen, felt, and connected to you, followed by the space where she wonders where that energy went. That contrast creates emotional depth. It makes your presence valuable. And most importantly, it makes her chase it again. But most men never give her the chance to chase. They're too busy chasing her, always texting first, always asking to see her, always filling the silence because they're scared of losing her. And the irony is they lose her anyway. Not because they did something wrong, but because they never gave her a moment to feel the absence of their attention. So here's the wake-up call. Stop being scared to pull back. Stop acting like her response determines your next move. You are not a servant to her emotions. You are the source of the emotional roller coaster that keeps her hooked. That means giving her powerful, genuine moments of connection, and then going silent, going quiet, living your life, making her wonder. That tension is everything. It makes her replay your conversations. It makes her check her phone. It makes her feel the space you leave behind and crave the next moment you show up. Women means nothing if it's constant. It only matters when it's earned, when it's unpredictable, and when it feels like a reward. You don't need to beg for her time. You need to show her that your time is valuable, and that when she gets it, it means something. So stop overgiving. Stop being afraid of silence. Stop drowning her in attention and thinking that's love. Give it then, take it away. Let her feel that absence. Let her come to you. Because once she starts chasing your energy, you're not just some guy she likes. You're the guy she can't stop thinking about. Here's the truth. No one wants to say out loud, women don't fall for the guy who gives them everything. They fall for the guy they can't fully have. That's the uncomfortable, controversial reality. The more available, predictable, and emotionally exposed you are, the less room there is for her to become obsessed. Women is born in tension, in mystery, in the emotional space where she's not sure if she's winning or losing you. That's what keeps her coming back. Not how nice you are, not how much you show up, but how much she has to earn your attention. And listen, this video wasn't about playing games. It's about understanding the psychological truth behind female attraction that most men ignore. You've been taught to lead with love, but nobody taught you how to lead with power. That's why you keep getting ghosted, ignored, or left on red. Not because you're not good enough, but because you're too easy to figure out. Number 8. Reward her with silence. Let me tell you a truth. Most men never learn silence. Is not just the absence of words. It's a signal, a weapon. And when used with intention, it becomes one of the most powerful forms of influence you have, especially with women. You see, most guys panic in silence. The second a woman pulls away, gives a short reply, or goes quiet, they react. They text again. They double down. They explain themselves. They beg to be heard. But the man who knows his value, the man who's anchored in his purpose, he doesn't flinch. He doesn't fill the space. He lets it breathe. That's what makes him different. But here's where it gets interesting. When used at the right moment, your silence doesn't feel like punishment. It feels like a shift in power. And for a woman who's used to attention, who expects validation, that shift hits hard. It creates an emotional imbalance that leaves her wondering, what just happened? Let me be clear, we're not talking about the silent treatment. That's immature. That's avoidance. No, what I'm talking about is selective silence, intentional space. A moment of withdrawal that says, I don't need to explain myself. I don't need to chase. I'm grounded in something bigger than this. And that silence becomes a reward, but only when it follows presence. Let me explain. If you've shown up with warmth, authenticity, and depth, if she's felt your energy, your attention, your insight, and then suddenly you go quiet, it lands like thunder after lightning. She notices the absence because you've made your presence matter first. This is key. If you're emotionally distant from the start, your silence means nothing. But if you've connected, if you've seen her, made her feel understood, and then you pull back now that silence echoes, now it makes her reach. And when she reaches, you don't jump, you wait, you let the silence teach. Because here's what happens, she begins to associate your attention with value. It's not cheap, it's not constant, it's not automatic, it's earned. Think about this. We live in a world where everyone is constantly broadcasting, talking, commenting, DMing, seeking some form of response. But the man who doesn't rush to speak, he stands out. He becomes rare. And in the psychology of attraction, what's rare becomes desired. This is Stoicism in real life. You're not silent because you're unsure. You're silent because you're unmoved. You're choosing stillness over impulse. You're choosing clarity over reaction. And that emotional self-control, it's magnetic. So how do you apply this without being cold? Simple. You don't withhold to punish, you withdraw to center yourself. You don't ghost, you step back with presence. Your silence isn't confusion, it's clarity, a reset. And if she leans in curious, unsure, reaching for the connection again now, she's engaged emotionally, not just entertained, not just admired, engaged. But this only works when you've already made an impression. So don't be invisible. Don't be absent without presence. Build first, then retreat with precision. Because that contrast, that moment when your voice disappears, when your eyes aren't searching for hers, when your energy isn't chasing it, makes her feel something no compliment ever could. I don't own his attention. And suddenly she wants it more. If you've ever been the guy who talked too much, explained too much, tried too hard to fix things in words, try this instead. Say less. Hold the frame. Let silence speak. And you'll see what used to be a weakness becomes your greatest pull. If that lands with you, type this in the comments. My silence has weight. And if you're starting to feel what this series is really about, not tricks, not tactics, but becoming a man whose presence can't be ignored, then subscribe right now. Because what's coming next? It'll show you how to break the rules without losing yourself. Stay silent. Stay sharp. Number 9. Break her patterns gently. Let's get into something that most men don't even realize is happening until it's too late. Women live in emotional patterns, not just habits, not just routines, but emotional scripts they've rehearsed over and over again, scripts about how people respond to them, how attention works, how connection forms. And the guys who follow those scripts, they get slotted into the same mental category as every other man before you. Forgettable. But the man who gently disrupts that pattern, not by force but by subtle redirection, he's the one who lingers in her mind. Why? Because you didn't play your part. You gave her something she didn't expect. Something that confused her logic but captured her interest. That's how obsession begins. Let me give you a simple example. She's used to getting attention for her looks. She posts a photo. She gets 200 hearts, 10 comments, 3 DMs. It's automatic. It's predictable. It's a dopamine cycle. Now you enter the frame. She expects you to play along, hit like, drop a compliment, react like the rest. But instead you don't. You respond offline. Or you say something that cuts through the surface. You acknowledge something about her mindset, her taste in books, her ideas, something no one else even noticed. And in that moment, the script breaks. She goes from another guy reacting to wait. Why is he different? That's emotional disruption. Now here's what most guys get wrong. They think disruption has to be aggressive, bold, loud. But that's just another version of the same thing, still predictable. Real power lies in being unpredictable, quietly. You don't reject her patterns, you redirect them. For example, let's say she tests you. Maybe she withdraws, flirts with other guys in front of you, throws out a backhanded comment. Most men react, get jealous, defensive, try to re-earn her attention. You smile, say nothing, or better, acknowledge it without reacting emotionally, like, that was cute, trying to see if I'll chase, then you move on. Now she's confused but intrigued, because her script didn't work, and people are fascinated by what they can't categorize. Stoicism teaches us to stay unmoved by externals. That includes games, manipulation, emotional chaos. When you break her patterns gently, you're not rejecting her, you're showing her that you can see through her defenses and still remain centered. That's incredibly rare, and that's where the deeper bond starts forming. Not in dominance, not in submission, but in that space where she realizes, this man doesn't need to overpower me, he just doesn't follow the same emotional rules everyone else does. That's unforgettable. Now here's the key, it must be gentle. This isn't about breaking her down. You're not trying to humble her or prove a point. You're simply creating friction in the right places, small surprises that make her recalibrate, reassess, re-engage. A compliment when she doesn't expect one. Silence when she tries to provoke you. Presence when she's used to emotional distance. Each move says, I'm not here to react, I'm here to lead energy. And women, whether they admit it or not, crave that. Not control, not domination, but presence with backbone. So the next time you sense she's pulling from a familiar emotional playbook, don't attack it, don't play into it, just pivot. Slightly, softly, and let her experience what it feels like to not be in full control of the narrative for once. It'll disarm her, in a good way, in a necessary way, and most importantly, it'll show her that you're not another scene in her movie. You're the director who rewrites the script. If you're starting to feel this, if you've been that guy who always followed her lead, who never broke the rhythm, then this is your moment to shift. Start small, break gently, but never follow the old script again. If that unlocked something for you, type this in the comments, I rewrite the frame. And if you're still here, still absorbing all of this, then you already know you're not meant to be average. Hit subscribe, because the next part, it's about building an emotional presence so powerful, she won't even realize she's falling in until it's already too late. Let's keep going. Number 10. Stay emotionally untouchable. Let's end with something that separates men who are unforgettable from those who are just a moment. Emotional untouchability. Now, before you get the wrong idea, this isn't about being cold. It's not about building walls, being distant, or acting like you don't care. That's not power, that's fear in disguise. What we're talking about here is something deeper, something quieter, something magnetic. The ability to remain centered no matter what emotion is thrown at you. You see, the average man is reactive. He's emotionally available in all the wrong ways. He gets high when she flirts, low when she's distant, anxious when she's cold, euphoric when she shows interest again. It's a cycle. And women know it. Many even subconsciously test for it. They want to feel your stability. They want to know you're not swayed by their mood swings, their silence, their emotional smoke screens. Because if you can be emotionally moved at will, you're not a man, you're a puppet. But when you're emotionally untouchable, now you're dangerous in the most attractive way possible. Because here's what happens. She flirts. You smile but stay still. She pulls away. You remain grounded. She provokes you with a jealous comment, a challenge, a let me see if he reacts moment. You see it. You recognize it, but you don't play into it. That kind of control, it creates fascination. Not because you're aloof, but because you're anchored. You're not trying to win her over. You're not here for emotional ping-pong. You've mastered your inner state, and that's rare. Stoicism teaches us that we are not our emotions, we are the observer behind them. We don't suppress our feelings, we just don't allow them to control our behavior. That's what staying emotionally untouchable means. It's emotional mastery. Stillness with strength. And trust me, when a woman meets a man like that, she feels it instantly. There's a calm in his energy, a precision in his attention. He doesn't respond fast because he doesn't need to. He doesn't react out of fear because he's not seeking validation. He listens. He holds eye contact, but his center untouched. And you know what that does? It makes her lean in, not physically, emotionally. Because every other guy, he gets flustered when she's distant. He over-explains, over-texts, chases clarity. But the emotionally untouchable man doesn't need clarity from her. He already has it from himself. And that level of self-containment, that's rare air. Here's how you build it. First, pause before you react, always. Feel the urge to reply instantly. Wait. Feel the sting of a passive-aggressive comment. Don't flinch. Let stillness become your first language. Second, detach your worth from her response. Whether she praises or ignores compliments or criticizes, you stay the same. That doesn't mean you tolerate disrespect. It means you don't need an emotional boost or rescue. That's the strength she'll start craving. And third, build your emotional identity on something bigger than romance. Your discipline, your mission, your philosophy, your peace. Because when your emotions are shaped by who you've chosen to become, no woman, no reaction, no silence can shake that. Let her wonder how deep you go. Let her guess what you're thinking. Let her test you and fail to shake you. That's when she knows she's not dealing with a boy. She's dealing with a man who commands his own emotional world. And the truth is, when you become emotionally untouchable, you don't attract more chaos. You attract women who want peace, women who feel safe in your stillness, women who rise to meet your level of grounded presence. That's where real power lives. So if you've ever felt like you give too much, feel too fast, or fall too quickly into emotional spirals, this is your shift. Build the frame, hold it, live it, and soon you'll realize it's not what you say or even what you feel that makes her obsessed. It's what you don't react to. If this spoke to something deeper in you, drop this in the comments. My emotions serve me. So now you've got them 10 psychological shifts that don't just make you more attractive, they make you unshakable. But here's the truth most men miss. These tricks aren't about playing games. They're about becoming a man who no longer needs them to feel powerful. Because power isn't something you chase, it's something you embody. Every silence you hold, every pattern you break, every time you stay calm when others would fold. It's not just about women. It's about building a version of you that commands respect without ever raising your voice. Let's stop pretending women are impossible to understand. They're not. They're emotional creatures, beautiful, complex, yes. But trust me, there are cracks in the armor. And if you know where to look, you'll see exactly what makes them melt, what makes them chase, and yeah, what makes them stay up all night thinking about you. This isn't about tricks or manipulation. It's about seeing the real stuff most men miss. Because while most guys are trying too hard, the smart ones, they're pressing on the right pressure points. The silent emotional triggers that hit deep. So in this video, we're diving into the top 9 female weaknesses every man must know. Some of these will surprise you, some will make you grin, and a few, you're gonna wish you knew them years ago. Let's go. No fluff, no filters. Just straight up Stoic power meets primal understanding. Number 1. Confidence that doesn't ask for permission. Let's be real. Women are addicted to confidence, but not the loud, show-offy, look-at-me type. We're talking about that quiet, unshakable kind. The kind of confidence that walks into a room like it doesn't need applause. That doesn't ask, am I good enough? Because it already knows. That's the weakness right there. You see, most dudes chase validation. They drop compliments over text, try too hard to prove they're different. But women can sniff that out like blood in the water. Confidence that doesn't chase, that doesn't explain itself. That's rare and that's sexy as hell. It's the guy who doesn't flinch when she plays games. It's the guy who doesn't rush to fill silences. It's the man who speaks when he's ready, not when he's nervous. She may act tough. She may pretend she's in charge. But when a man stands his ground without ego, without effort, it short-circuits her brain. Why? Because her feminine energy wants to surrender to strength, not brute strength, emotional strength. The guy who can hold his own, take the lead and make her feel safe while doing absolutely nothing extra. He owns her thoughts without even trying. So don't try harder, stand taller, walk slower, speak less. Let your energy say what your mouth doesn't need to. That's her favorite weakness, and you don't even have to break a sweat. Number 2. Being understood without explaining everything. Here's the truth. Most women are exhausted from explaining themselves. They're tired of saying I'm fine and not being believed. Tired of men thinking every emotional moment means she's too much. Tired of not being seen. You want to know one of her biggest weaknesses. A man who gets it without her needing to spell it out. You don't have to be psychic, you just have to be present. Notice when she goes quiet. Feel when her tone changes. Read the room when her energy shifts. Most guys miss this. They're focused on what to say next instead of what she's feeling right now. But when you look at her pause and say something's off, talk to me when you're ready, that hits different. It tells her this man sees me, I don't have to perform with him. I can be soft here. And bro, that's where the walls fall. Because women don't fall in love with men who just impress them. They fall for the ones who make them feel understood. So don't force advice. Don't fix everything. Just feel her. That level of attunement. It's rare, and it's one of her deepest emotional weaknesses. Number 3. Masculine silence in the right moments. There's a difference between silence that feels like punishment and silence that feels like presence. The first one leaves people confused, defensive, even resentful. But the second, that's the kind of silence that makes you unforgettable. Because when a man masters silence not as withdrawal but as control, he doesn't just become more attractive. He becomes dangerous in the best way. See, most men don't understand silence. They fear it. They rush to fill every space in a conversation, especially when emotions are involved. If a woman pulls back, they chase. If she criticizes, they defend. If she tests them, they explain. But here's what they don't realize: when you react like that, you're showing her that you can be emotionally pulled like a puppet. A Stoic man, on the other hand, knows the power of restraint. He's not cold. He's not dismissive. He's just not shaken. When tension rises, he doesn't meet chaos with more chaos. He meets it with calm. And sometimes that calm sounds like nothing. No defense, no explanation, just stillness. That stillness, it speaks volumes. It says, I'm not playing this game. It says, I don't need to argue to know I'm right. It says, your emotions won't knock me off center. And trust me, women feel that deeply. Let me be clear, this isn't about shutting her out. This isn't the silent treatment which is toxic, petty, and rooted in fear. This is about remaining anchored when everything around you wants to pull you off course. It's about protecting your energy from manipulation, emotional noise, or traps that are meant to provoke a reaction. Picture this: you're having a heated conversation. She makes a passive-aggressive remark. In your gut, you feel the urge to react, to clap back, to prove a point. But instead of rising to it, you do something she didn't expect. You breathe. You stay quiet. You hold her gaze, but you don't bite. That moment, that's dominance. Not the kind that controls with force, but the kind that leads with presence. She feels it. And instead of continuing her spiral, she's drawn back into the moment, into your calm, into your leadership. Masculine silence in the right moment can stop a storm before it begins, because silence creates space. And in that space, people reflect. They become aware of their behavior. They question their own patterns. You don't have to say a word. The contrast between her emotional chaos and your grounded stillness is loud enough. That's the essence of masculine polarity. You're not trying to be mysterious for the sake of drama. You're holding back because you understand something deeper. Not every moment deserves your reaction. Some moments demand your restraint, and the more you practice this, the more she'll feel safe around you. Not because you're passive, but because you're powerful enough to stay still. And when you do speak, it hits harder. Because now your words aren't noise, they're rare, intentional, earned. So if you're someone who's always felt the need to explain, to justify, to fix every emotional flare-up in your relationship, it's time to shift. Start with silence, not out of spite, but out of strength. Let her lean into your stillness. Let her feel the weight of your calm. And don't be surprised when she starts following your lead, because a woman will always test to see where your limits are. She's not doing it to break you. She's doing it to find out if you can hold the frame when she can't. If you crumble, she'll feel the burden of having to lead emotionally. But if you stay centered, she'll trust you in a way she can't even explain. Masculine silence is earned, and it's built moment by moment when you choose not to react, not to chase, not to panic. When you choose to be the eye of the storm. And if this hit home, if you've been giving too much of your energy to conversations that didn't deserve it, to women who expected you to bend emotionally just to keep the peace, it's time to reclaim that power. So pause for a second, reflect, and type this below: I speak with presence. Now listen. In the next part, we're going to reveal a trait that looks like confidence, but is actually a shield women use when they feel most insecure. Spotting this early will save you from emotional traps most men never see coming. Stick around, you'll want to hear it. Number 4. Deep eye contact that doesn't flinch. There's something primal about eye contact, not the kind that's brief or polite. Not the kind you use to make small talk or avoid awkward silence. I'm talking about deep eye contact, the kind that holds, the kind that lingers a second longer than expected, the kind that says, I see you fully, and I'm not afraid of what I see. That kind of eye contact. It's not just powerful, it's transformative. Most men look away too quickly. It's almost automatic. She looks at them and they flinch. They glance down. They shift their posture. Their mind races. Am I saying the right thing? Does she like me? What does that look mean? But women are incredibly sensitive to microsignals. And when you break eye contact too fast, you're signaling something: weakness, insecurity, a lack of self-trust. But when you can meet her eyes and hold steady, especially in emotionally charged moments, something changes. Because deep, unflinching eye contact does a few things at once. First, it grounds you. It forces you into the present. You can't fake eye contact, not that kind. It's like a mirror. If you're unsettled inside, she'll feel it in a second. But if you're calm, rooted unapologetically there, your eyes will tell the truth. Second, it pierces through her defenses. She might be trying to act tough. She might be testing you with attitude or aloofness. But when your gaze doesn't waver, you bypass the act and go straight to the core. Not with aggression, not with neediness, but with masculine stillness. Third, it changes the emotional tone. People expect reactions. They expect you to look away, to fluster, to overcompensate. But your steady gaze says, I'm not here to impress. I'm here to observe, to feel, to understand. That's rare. And it disarms her in the most unexpected way. Now here's the key. The power of eye contact isn't in intensity, it's in presence. You're not trying to stare her down. You're not trying to dominate the moment. You're just there, fully. Nothing to hide, nothing to chase, just grounded awareness. That's where most men mess this up. They try to use eye contact as a tactic. They think if they hold it long enough, it'll create attraction. But if your energy is needy or performative, she'll feel it instantly. She won't say anything, but her body will tense. Her guard will go up. She'll sense that something is off. Because again, eye contact is a mirror. It reflects your state. If you're confident, it reflects confidence. If you're anxious, it reflects anxiety. If you're faking it, it reflects the lie. So the secret isn't in learning how to look confident. It's in becoming someone who doesn't flinch. That starts internally. When you hold eye contact, you're saying, I don't need to escape this moment. That alone makes you different, because the world is filled with people running from vulnerability, from discomfort, from presence. But you face it. You look into her eyes and don't blink first. And that's not just attractive, that's rare, that's memorable. You want to leave an impression that lingers in her mind. Don't try to impress her with words. Look her in the eyes with stillness and let her feel your self-trust. She'll remember it long after the conversation ends. Now here's a challenge for you. The next time you're with someone, anyone, practice holding eye contact for 1 second longer than you normally would. Don't force it. Just allow the silence. Allow the connection. And most importantly, observe what comes up inside you. That tension, that's where your growth is. And if this message hits somewhere real, if you know you've been the guy who looks down too fast, who breaks the moment because it's uncomfortable, now's the time to change that. Type this below, I don't flinch. Because when you stop flinching, people stop treating you like someone who breaks under pressure. And hey, if you've felt the shift already, just wait. Because in the next part, we're going to unlock one of the most underestimated forces in attraction. It's not what you say. It's not what you do. It's what you withhold. And how that triggers her curiosity like nothing else. Stick with me. You're about to see why less is often more. Number 5. The need for mysterious depth. Let's be honest, most men misunderstand mystery. They confuse it with aloofness. They think being mysterious means being emotionally distant, vague, or hard to reach. So they play games, they withhold affection, they disappear and reappear to seem unpredictable. But here's the truth, that's not mystery. That's emotional immaturity wearing a mask. Real mystery doesn't come from avoidance. It comes from depth, a kind of internal richness that isn't broadcast but felt. You see, mystery isn't about what you hide. It's about what you don't feel the need to explain. It's about who you are beneath the surface and how comfortable you are letting people discover that slowly. And to be honest, that's what women crave. Not a man who vanishes, but a man who feels like a book they haven't finished reading, one with chapters, tension, and meaning. Let's break this down through a Stoic lens. The Stoics believed in self-containment, not in a way that disconnects you, but in a way that keeps your identity from leaking everywhere. A Stoic man knows when to speak and when to withhold. He doesn't reveal everything because he understands that self-respect includes protecting your inner world. Now contrast that with the modern guy who overshares on the first date. He talks endlessly about his past, his pain, his goals, not because he's being authentic, but because he's trying to prove his worth through emotional exposure. That's not vulnerability. That's desperation disguised as openness. A man with mysterious depth does the opposite. He's open, but selectively. He listens more than he talks. He answers questions, but rarely more than what's necessary. And somehow, without trying, he pulls people in. Because he doesn't flood the room with his story, he gives just enough for you to wonder what's beneath it. That's magnetic. And here's why mystery creates space. And space allows the other person to engage their curiosity. In a world full of noise, a man who doesn't broadcast every detail becomes a riddle, and the human mind hates unresolved tension. We're wired to chase the answers, to seek the full picture. So when you hold a part of yourself back, not from fear, but from power, you naturally invite pursuit. Let me give you a real-world example. You're on a date. She asks about your past relationships. Instead of unloading every heartbreak, you pause, smile, and say, "Let's just say I've learned a lot, but I'd rather show you who I've become than tell you who I was." Boom. You've said everything and nothing. And now she's intrigued, not because you avoided the question, but because you answered it with intention, with control, with presence. That's depth. Another scenario, she asks what you do for a living. Most guys rattle off their resume. You. Keep it simple. I build things. Mostly things that help people solve quiet problems. And then you shift the focus back to her. You're not hiding, you're anchoring. You're showing that your identity isn't glued to a job title. It runs deeper. The Stoics believed that a man should be difficult to disturb, and that includes emotionally. A mysterious man doesn't just manage his words, he manages his energy. He chooses when to be expressive and when to be still, when to elaborate, and when to let silence speak louder. And because of that, every action he takes is more impactful. Women don't want constant access, they want earned access. To know that when you open up it means something, that there's a reason behind every word. So, if you've been the man who shares too much too fast, hoping to prove that you're real or deep, take a step back. Mystery isn't about becoming someone else. It's about subtracting what's unnecessary so your truth can speak more clearly. Let your actions reveal your values. Let your silence create space. Let your story unfold, not all at once, but like a novel worth finishing. And if this part of the message hits you, where it matters, if you've been giving away your essence too easily, it's time to shift the energy. Type this below: I lead with depth. And get ready, because the next trait we're diving into is the most misunderstood masculine force of all. It's not dominance. It's not status. It's something that makes women feel emotionally safe and dangerously drawn to you at the same time. You don't want to miss what's next. Number 6. Her soft spot for a man with purpose, not just passion. Let's clear something up. A lot of guys think passion is enough. They think if they're intense enough, if they talk with fire in their voice, chase dreams, hustle non-stop, she'll be impressed. And sure, passion catches attention, but it doesn't hold it. Because passion without direction is chaos. It's energy without aim. Fire without a fireplace. What she truly responds to is purpose. And no, they're not the same thing. Passion is what excites you. Purpose is what anchors you. Passion fluctuates, comes and goes. But purpose, it's steady. It's what keeps you going when passion fades. It's what gives your actions meaning beyond the moment. Here's what most men miss. Women don't fall for men just because they're ambitious. They fall for men whose ambition is aimed, focused, disciplined. A man with purpose moves differently. He doesn't waste time trying to convince others of his potential. He's too busy building something. His time has value. His attention has boundaries. He says no more often than yes because his mission comes first. And you might think that makes him less emotionally available, but it's the opposite. When a woman sees a man with purpose, something clicks inside her because she knows this man won't crumble under pressure. He won't lose himself trying to please me. He stands for something bigger than both of us. That's not just attractive. That's grounding. It makes her feel safe. And in a world full of men trying to impress with surface-level passion, talking loud, moving fast, chasing dopamine, a man with quiet purpose is a force of nature. Now let's bring Stoicism into this. The Stoic man doesn't chase validation. He's not addicted to results. He's committed to the process. He wakes up with a compass, not a clock. He asks himself, what must be done today? What is within my control? What deserves my energy? That mindset isn't just powerful, it's rare. It means you don't crumble when things go wrong. You don't lose yourself when a relationship shakes. You have a core that isn't built on her opinion of you. It's built on your alignment with something greater, something that won't vanish when the thrill fades. That kind of purpose is magnetic. Let's get practical. Let's say you're building a business or creating art or leading a team. That's great, but don't just do it for applause. Don't chase success to prove yourself. Build because it aligns with who you are. Work because it brings structure to your energy. Lead because it sharpens your discipline. When you live that way, you don't have to explain yourself. She'll feel it in your tone, your posture, your choices. And here's the beautiful paradox. The less you seek approval, the more desirable you become, because she knows you're not here to be consumed, you're here to build, to serve something real. She's not just attracted to your fire, she's drawn to your direction. And if you've been all passion with no purpose, if you've been chasing energy spikes trying to keep her attention with excitement, it's time to shift. Because she'll feel the difference between a man who burns fast and one who burns steady. Purpose makes you steady. So here's your moment of reflection. What are you building that would matter even if no one clapped for it? What do you return to when the emotions fade and the noise dies down? That's your purpose. Start living from there. Let that guide your mornings, your boundaries, your energy. And the next time you speak with her, don't try to impress. Let your alignment speak. Let your discipline show. And if she's the right kind of woman, she'll feel it, she'll respect it, and more than that, she'll soften toward it. Because every truly feminine woman has a soft spot. For a man who doesn't just feel deeply, but builds clearly. Type this below, I move with purpose. Because when your life becomes more than a chase for passion, you stop being another thrill and start being the real thing. Stick around, because what's coming next isn't about strategy. It's about the one inner trait that silently draws her in, even when you say nothing at all. Number 7, her hidden yearning to be led without being controlled. Let's get this straight from the start. Most men either overdo this or avoid it entirely. They either try to dominate every move she makes, or they back off completely pretending leadership is toxic. But both approaches miss a deeper truth. Many women secretly yearn to be led not because they're weak, but because true leadership creates emotional safety. Now, let's be clear, she doesn't want to be bossed around. She doesn't want you micromanaging her life, making every decision, or using masculinity as a mask for control. That kind of behavior triggers resistance, not attraction. What she wants is to feel a man's direction, not because he demands authority, but because he radiates clarity. It's that powerful, grounded presence that says, I know who I am. I know where I'm going. And I've got this even when things get messy. That's the kind of energy she can relax into. That's the kind of presence that makes her feel emotionally held. So how do you show that? Not through control, but through emotional leadership. This kind of leadership begins with self-mastery. You're not trying to lead her before you've learned how to lead yourself. A Stoic man, the kind who earns deep respect, knows that leadership is first and foremost about inner discipline. Epictetus said it best, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Let that sink in. Leadership is being the calm in her storm without silencing her. It's choosing presence when she's spinning and refusing to mirror her chaos. It's guiding the emotional tone of a moment without needing to dominate the details. For example, she's frustrated, emotional, maybe even attacking. The weak man snaps, the passive man withdraws. But the emotionally grounded man, he listens, he breathes, he holds the tension. He says, I hear you. I'm not here to argue. Let's slow this down. That response shows emotional leadership. You're not controlling her, you're guiding the moment with composure. And that's what she craves more than dominance. Because here's the hidden truth. The feminine resents being controlled, but it longs to trust direction. It wants to lean on strength that doesn't fluctuate with every emotion or external event. If she can feel your centeredness, your self-command, your ability to stay calm without silencing her voice, she'll lean in. Not because you told her to, but because your presence makes it feel natural. So how do you cultivate that? You start by mastering your impulses. You stop trying to win emotional arguments and start asking, what energy does this moment really need from me? Most women have spent years leading themselves professionally, socially, emotionally. What they're secretly hungry for isn't a dictator. It's someone whose internal compass is so clear she can finally let go of the wheel without losing herself. That's not about being louder. It's about being firmer in spirit. Let's go practical. You're out with her. The night's getting chaotic. She's feeling overwhelmed. You take her hand and say, let's get some fresh air. Simple, calm, direct. You're not controlling her. You're leading her into emotional clarity. And she'll remember that not just as a moment, but as a feeling of safety tied to your presence. Or maybe she's spiraling over a decision. You listen, and then you say, here's what I'd do, but I trust you to choose. I've got your back either way. That kind of grounded input feels like leadership. Not because you gave her an answer, but because you stood in truth without pushing her to comply. The Stoics believed in leading by virtue, not force. And that's the real model here. You don't need to be louder. You need to be clearer. You don't need to control more. You need to command your own energy so deeply that your presence guides the tone of the relationship. That's what makes her feel like she can trust you, not as a boss, but as a partner with a backbone. So, if you've been shrinking back afraid that leading will make you seem controlling, or worse, if you've been overstepping, mistaking volume for power, now's the time to reset. Because when you embody that rare, steady presence, you give her the one thing she can't find in the world of chaos. A man she doesn't have to resist to feel safe. Type this below, I lead through calm. And get ready, because in the next section we'll talk about a behavior that draws her attention without saying a single word. A quiet force that turns heads without ever asking for it. Number 8. Her vulnerability to words that paint new worlds. Let's talk about one of the quietest yet most powerful openings into a woman's emotional world. It's not your status. It's not your looks. It's not even your actions. It's your words. Not the empty ones. Not the flashy pickup lines or the overdone compliments. I'm talking about the kind of words that paint new realities. Words that awaken emotion, spark imagination, and gently lead her into a space she hasn't let many people see. Because here's what many men don't realize. Women are vulnerable to language that carries vision. It's not manipulation, it's connection. And when you speak from a place of grounded imagination, when your words aren't just noise, but a lens that reveals something deeper, that's when you stop being just another guy and become an experience. You see, women live in emotional landscapes. They feel in colors, metaphors, memories. So when you speak in ways that touch those inner visuals, not just facts and logic, but stories, tones, and texture, you bypass surface attraction and go straight to the emotional core. Let me show you what that looks like. You could say, "You look good tonight." Basic, expected. Now compare that to, "There's something about the way your presence shifts a room, like the energy calms down when you walk in." Suddenly it's not just about how she looks, it's about how she affects the environment. You've placed her in a larger frame. You've shown her a version of herself that maybe she's never fully seen. That's what I mean by painting new worlds. And it's not about being poetic for the sake of being smooth. It's about speaking from awareness, from presence, and from emotional insight. That's what Stoicism trains us to develop: deep internal clarity, so our words don't come from ego, but from intention. A Stoic man knows that words are tools. Used carelessly, they create confusion. Used consciously, they shape perception. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Now think about that in conversation. When you speak, you're coloring her inner world, even if just slightly. And when you consistently speak in ways that reflect beauty, strength, and vision without faking it, without selling anything, she starts associating you with that emotional palette. You become the man whose words open her, not by force, but by invitation. And the beauty of this, it doesn't require poetry. It just requires truth spoken vividly. Let's say she's telling you about a childhood dream she buried. The average guy might nod and move on, but you pause and say that version of you, that little girl who lit up talking about that dream, she still lives in you. Don't let the world keep her hidden. Boom. You didn't solve her problems. You didn't try to rescue her. You just saw her and described her in a way that painted a new possibility. That moment will stick. And no, it's not about being romantic 24/7. It's about being mindful of the weight your words carry. When you speak without presence, your words fall flat. When you speak with clarity and stillness, they cut through the noise. Women are deeply sensitive to language that reflects meaning, especially when that language invites them into growth, softness, or emotional expansion. This is also why a woman can remember something you said years ago if it touched something real in her, and why she can forget what you did last week if your actions had no emotional anchor. So the next time you speak to her, ask yourself, am I just making noise, or am I using my words to create depth, intimacy, or inspiration? Because when your words become doorways instead of just labels, she won't just hear you. She'll feel you, and that feeling will last far longer than anything you wear or post online. Type this below: I speak with vision, because when your voice becomes a space where she can feel seen, inspired, and grounded, you don't just get her attention, you shift the way she sees herself. Stick around, because in the next part we'll talk about the one masculine trait that speaks the loudest, even when you say nothing at all. Number 9. The unspoken need for a man who can walk away. Let's get real. There's a side of attraction nobody likes to admit, especially not out loud. It's uncomfortable, it's raw, but it's true. A woman deeply respects a man who can walk away, not because he threatens to, not because he's cold or detached, but because he doesn't need to stay where he's not valued. And that's the key. It's not about playing games. It's about holding self-worth so quietly, so firmly, that it reshapes the power dynamic without a single word. Now you might be thinking, but won't that make me seem unavailable? Won't she just walk too? Maybe. But if she does, she was never really with you in the first place. She was with the version of you that needed her approval. You see, emotional neediness is the fastest way to lose her respect. Women have a radar for men who tolerate disrespect, disinterest, or emotional breadcrumbs just to keep the connection alive. And every time you stay in a situation that dishonors your standards, she sees it, even if she never says a word. Why? Because deep down the feminine doesn't just crave love, it craves polarity, direction, boundaries, masculine certainty. And nothing shows that more clearly than a man who knows when to walk, not in anger, not in drama, but in quiet, unshakable self-respect. Let's be honest, we've all been there. You're emotionally invested. She's pulling back. You justify, you chase, you hope. But with every ignored text, every excuse, every moment she pulls you out of your frame, you lose a piece of yourself. And ironically, the more you try to hold on, the less she feels pulled toward you. But here's the shift. When you reclaim your center, when you stop negotiating your value and start protecting your energy, something flips. She feels the distance. She feels your absence not as punishment but as presence withdrawn. And if she truly respects you, that absence becomes loud. Because here's the unspoken truth. A woman can't admire a man who's afraid of losing her. She may appreciate the attention. She may enjoy the chase. But admiration, the kind that builds long-term attraction, only grows when she knows you can choose her, but you don't need her. That's the Stoic frame. You don't chase outcomes. You focus on your principles. You show up with heart, but never at the cost of your self-respect. Seneca wrote, "If you live in harmony with nature, you will never be poor. If you live according to what others think of you, you will never be rich." Let that land. Because when you act from lack, from fear, from emotional survival, you give your power away. But when you stand still in your worth, even when it costs you something, you reclaim everything. And sometimes that means walking, not as a threat, but as a reminder to both of you of who you are. It's in those moments she sees what kind of man you are. The kind who doesn't argue for his value, the kind who lets go when respect is gone, the kind who isn't moved by emotion alone but by clarity. And guess what? That kind of man doesn't just get women chasing, he gets women respecting, because he's not addicted to approval, he's devoted to truth. So what does this look like practically? She flakes again, she pulls back emotionally. She starts sending mixed signals. You don't beg, you don't lash out. You step back. You stop initiating. You don't fill the silence with need. You let her feel the weight of losing your presence, and maybe she comes back, maybe she doesn't. But either way, you stay rooted in your worth, because your dignity doesn't depend on how she responds. It depends on how you honor yourself. So, if you've been tolerating less than you deserve, if you've been holding on out of fear instead of walking away in strength, this is your turning point. She'll never say it outright. But the moment she senses that you can walk away, that's when she realizes she doesn't want you to. Type this below. I walk with worth, and stay tuned. Because in the final section we'll explore one last weakness most men never notice. A soft spot so hidden it only appears in front of men who've mastered emotional independence. Number 10. Her softness only rises when your energy makes space for it. Let's wrap this up with something subtle, something most men miss, even the smart ones. You can do everything right. Lead with strength, speak with vision, show presence, discipline, confidence. but still, she won't soften. She'll keep her guard up, stay busy, talk fast, stay edgy. And you'll wonder, am I not enough? Here's the truth. Her softness isn't a performance, it's a response. And it only rises when your energy makes space for it. You don't force her into it. You don't demand vulnerability. You don't expect her to be feminine on command. Because here's what most men don't understand. Softness requires safety, not physical safety, emotional safety. And emotional safety begins with one thing: stillness, your grounded presence. When you walk into a room and your energy says, "Nothing you do will shake who I am," that's when she starts to let go. Think about it. She's spent years building walls. She's been told to hustle, to prove herself, to protect herself. She's seen men react, manipulate, get passive-aggressive, explode, withdraw. So when you come along and you're just calm in how you look at her, calm in how you listen, calm in how you hold space when she's spiraling, that's when her nervous system exhales. And in that silence, not the awkward kind, but the rooted kind, she softens. But you can't fake it. If your calm is just an act to get something in return, she'll feel it. If your composure is really suppression, she'll push against it. But when your calm comes from a place of true internal command, when you've done the work, when you've tamed your own mind, that's when her softness comes out. Not as a trick, as trust. This is why Stoicism matters, because it teaches you not to be emotionless, but to be emotionally untouchable. Not because you don't care, but because you've trained yourself not to react out of fear or ego. Marcus Aurelius said, "Be like the cliff against which the waves continually break, but it stands firm and tames the fury of the water around it." That's what she's testing for without even knowing it. Can you hold your ground, not in resistance, but in peace? Because when a man doesn't flinch, when he doesn't need to dominate, when he doesn't fold into her emotions or try to fix them too fast, he creates space. And that space is where her softness lives. Now here's the secret. Her softness isn't for every man. She won't offer it just because you're nice, or strong, or even respectful. She offers it when you've earned it, not by chasing, not by proving, but by being the kind of man who holds silence like it's sacred, the kind who listens without needing a solution, the kind who remains composed when her emotions flood the room, not to dismiss her, but to give her something stable to lean on. And when you do that, something shifts. She touches your arm in a way that says, "I feel safe here." She shares something deeper, not to test you, but to meet you. She stops trying to control every detail, because for the first time in a long time she can let go without collapsing. You want to unlock her softness, then be the silence her chaos respects. Be the calm that doesn't chase. Be the strength that doesn't flex. Be the man who doesn't need to win the moment, because he's mastered himself beyond it. At the end of the day, she doesn't need you to be perfect. She just needs to know that when her world shakes, yours won't. That's when her softness shows up. That's when she lets the armor fall. That's when you stop being a man she's intrigued by and become a man she can trust with her most hidden self. Not because you told her to, but because your energy made space for it. Type this below: I create safe space. So here's what it all comes down to. You don't need tricks. You don't need to perform. You just need to become the kind of man who leads with presence, not pressure, who speaks with vision, not noise, who walks with quiet strength, not loud desperation. Because the truth is, the more you master your inner world, the more magnetic your outer presence becomes. And the deeper you understand her unspoken needs, the less you ever have to chase anything. Not attention, not validation, not love. Thanks for riding with me through this one. If any part of this video hit you deep, don't just watch and scroll. Do something with it. Apply it. Live it. Let it challenge how you show up. And if you're new here, or you've been around, but haven't hit that subscribe button yet, now's the time. You could give her the world and she still won't care. That's a hard pill to swallow, but it's the truth. In this video, we're talking about a brutal reality most men don't want to face. Women don't care about everything you do for them. You could buy her gifts, solve her problems, be there for her 24/7, but if you're not giving her what she actually wants, none of that matters. She'll leave, lose interest, or start treating you like you're replaceable. And you'll be sitting there wondering, after everything I did, how could she walk away like that? Welcome to the channel where we speak to men with clarity, truth, and zero sugar coating. Today's topic is uncomfortable but necessary. The 5 things women really want, and why all your effort means nothing without them. This isn't about hating women, it's about understanding them. Because the moment you grasp what truly matters to a woman beneath all the polite words and social media quotes, you stop wasting your time, energy, and money on things that don't move the needle. So why do so many good men get walked all over? Because they believe that being nice, loyal, and generous will automatically win her over. But that's not how attraction works. Women don't fall in love with effort, they fall in love with impact. This video is going to strip away the illusions. No more guessing. No more hoping that being a good guy will be enough. I'm going to walk you through 5 core things a woman actually wants from a man. And once you understand this, you'll stop overgiving and start standing out. Let's break it all down step by step. Number 1. Effort doesn't equal desire. Men are raised to believe that the more effort you put in, the more you'll be appreciated. That's true in sports, in school, and in business. But when it comes to women, that logic can actually work against you. Women don't automatically desire a man just because he tries hard. In fact, too much effort, especially early on, can make you look desperate, emotionally needy, and low value. And that's not attractive. The uncomfortable truth is, just because you're doing a lot doesn't mean she feels anything for you. Desire is emotional. It's not logical. She doesn't think, wow, he texts me every morning and bought me dinner twice. I guess I should like him now. That's not how it works. She wants to feel a pull toward you that she can't explain. And that pull doesn't come from effort. It comes from presence, confidence, and unpredictability. Here's how it plays out. A guy meets a woman and starts doing everything for her. He offers rides, buys gifts, showers her with compliments, and responds to every message within seconds. He thinks he's showing her how serious and committed he is. But from her perspective, it feels off. Too much. Too soon. She starts to wonder, why is he trying so hard? What does he want from me? Why doesn't he have anything else going on? Now contrast that with a man who doesn't overextend. He shows interest, but he's not throwing himself at her. He has his own life, his own rhythm. He engages her without trying to impress her. That man makes her curious. She feels something, and that feeling turns into attraction. The lesson is simple. Effort without impact is wasted motion. You're not being judged by how much you do, but by how you make her feel. That's what desire is built on. Work smarter, not harder. Because if effort alone worked, every nice guy would be married by now. Number 2. She craves emotional power, not presence. Here's something most men never figure out. Women don't fall in love with the man who gives them the most. They fall for the man who makes them feel the most. It's not about what you hand her, it's about how you affect her emotionally. A lot of men think they can buy loyalty or love through gifts, favors, or constant attention. They assume that if they keep giving, she'll see their value and choose them. But the truth is, women want emotional leverage in a relationship. They want to feel like they have your attention, your focus, your energy, without you being fully in control of it. It's a power dynamic, and most men hand over the power without even realizing it. You could say she still might feel emotionally disconnected. Why? Because it's not about the thing you're giving. It's about the feeling she gets when she's around you. And if she feels like she has all the control, all the certainty, all the emotional leverage, she loses interest fast. She doesn't want to be worshipped. She wants to be stimulated. She wants the emotional ride, not the perfect routine. Predictability is not romantic. Emotional engagement is. She wants to feel tension, curiosity, anticipation. She wants the kind of connection that keeps her guessing a little, not a man who's trying to win her approval every second of the day. This is where most men mess up. They confuse providing for a woman with pleasing her emotionally. Those are two different games. You can be generous without being weak. You can be loving without being predictable, and you can make her feel secure without giving her full control. When a woman gets used to you giving everything and expecting nothing, she gets bored. She starts seeing you as someone she can manage, not someone she craves. And once you lose that emotional edge, the attraction fades quietly. Understand this: women want to feel emotionally alive. They want to be moved by you, not just treated well. It's the man who can stir something inside her that keeps her coming back. Stop trying to buy what can only be earned through presence, unpredictability, and emotional depth. Number 3. Nice guys are her safety net, not her choice. You've heard it before. Be kind, be respectful, be there for her. Sounds like good advice, right? On paper it makes sense. But in the real world, the so-called nice guy doesn't get chosen, he gets used. Let's be honest, a nice guy is the emotional spare tire, the guy she calls when things fall apart. He listens, supports, gives, without question, and waits for her to finally notice him. But deep down, even he knows he's not her first choice. He's just the safe one. And women do appreciate nice guys. They'll say he's so sweet or he's always there for me. But notice how they say that while texting someone else they're actually attracted to. That's the problem. Safety and attraction don't always live in the same house. You can be the guy who gives her everything and still not be the man who makes her feel something. The man she dreams about, thinks about, desires. That's not the one always nodding along and saying yes. Let me give it to you straight. The more predictable you are, the more invisible you become. The nice guy never pulls back, never challenges her, never says no. He bends over backward to make her comfortable, and in doing so he becomes forgettable. Now here's the kicker: it's not that women hate nice guys. It's that niceness without edge lacks gravity. Think about it. When was the last time someone was magnetically drawn to a doormat? What she feels for the nice guy is control. And control is the death of mystery, tension, and emotional fire. If she can predict your every move, if she knows you'll be there, no matter what, she doesn't feel compelled to choose you. She knows you'll wait. You're not a challenge. You're a guarantee. And nobody gets excited about what's guaranteed. Women are emotional creatures. They crave contrast. They want a man who is grounded but not passive, kind but not spineless, available but not desperate. Let me ask you this. Have you ever been the guy she vented to about her actual boyfriend? You sit there listening to her complain, biting your tongue, thinking, if only she saw how I treat her. But that's the trap. That's how you end up as the emotional support animal, not the man she desires. Being a good guy isn't bad, but being a nice guy who avoids tension at all costs, that's emotional self-erasure. That's suppressing your own needs and standards in the hope of being rewarded with love. But attraction doesn't work like that. She's not keeping score of your kindness. She's feeling the energy you bring, and if that energy is meek, hesitant, approval-seeking, you're out. Nice is the default setting. It's expected. It's the bare minimum. What sets you apart is strength, direction, the ability to say, "This doesn't work for me," and walk away if needed. That's what creates polarity. That's what creates respect. And respect is the foundation of desire. Stoicism teaches us that a man's peace cannot be dependent on others. That includes women. If you're constantly waiting on her recognition to feel whole, you've already given up your power. Marcus Aurelius didn't beg for validation. He built himself from the inside out, quietly, relentlessly. Here's a simple shift. Stop orbiting her life like a satellite. Start living like a star in your own universe. If she fits, she fits. If not, you don't shrink, you expand. That shift in energy is powerful. It turns you from a fallback into a focus, from tolerated to unforgettable. So if you've been stuck in the nice guy trap, let this be the moment you get out. Not by becoming cold, not by pretending, but by standing tall in your value and no longer trading your time, attention, and energy for the faint hope of being picked. Comment below, I've seen this. If you've ever been the one she called until someone better came along. And remember, when you stop trying to be chosen, you start becoming impossible to ignore. Number 4. Validation makes you weak in her eyes. Let's get this out of the way. Everyone likes to be appreciated. Compliments feel good. Being told you're amazing or you mean a lot to me hits the ego in all the right places. But when your sense of worth depends on hearing those things, especially from her, you're not receiving validation. You're begging for it. And women can sense that a mile away. Here's what you need to understand. Validation-seeking behavior is not just unattractive, it's repellent. It signals to her that your self-worth is shaky, that you need her to tell you you're a man before you feel like one. And the moment she sees that, something shifts. She no longer looks up to you. She looks down. She might not even realize it consciously, but the polarity changes. Because the man who's constantly chasing approval, who needs constant reassurance, doesn't lead, he follows. And following, energy kills attraction. Let me give it to you straight. When you fish for compliments, over-explain yourself. Ask, are you mad every time she goes quiet, or get visibly anxious when she's not validating your presence? You're bleeding masculine energy. And deep down you know it. You know what it feels like to shrink in a moment when you should have held your frame. To apologize for having standards just so she wouldn't get uncomfortable. To tailor your words so she doesn't pull away. That's not strength, that's performance. And every time you do it, you train her not to respect you. Now, don't twist this. I'm not saying you should be cold or robotic, but your center, your core identity, can't be up for auction every time she's in a mood. You can't outsource your self-worth to her attention. When you do that, you teach her one thing: your value is negotiable. And no woman wants to be in charge of your confidence. It's not sexy. It's exhausting. She wants a man who's rooted, who can take silence, distance, or even conflict and not flinch, not crumble, not chase. The Stoics knew this centuries ago. Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Why? Because they understood that the opinions of others, especially momentary approval, are not a stable foundation. You cannot build a grounded life on the shifting winds of someone else's mood. A man who practices Stoicism doesn't avoid emotion. He just doesn't hand over his emotional keys to anyone else. So how do you break the need for validation? You start by noticing it. The little moments. That micro hit of anxiety when she leaves you on read. That subtle urge to explain yourself when you feel misunderstood. That emotional dip when she's less responsive. Catch it, name it, and then don't act on it. Instead, act from principle, from direction. Ask yourself, what would the man I want to become do in this moment? Not the scared boy, not the eager pleaser. The man. That's where your power lives. And when you start living from that place, she feels it. Your energy shifts from needy to magnetic, from reactive to composed, from waiting to be chosen to already being enough. Comment below, I felt that. If you've ever caught yourself chasing validation and felt smaller because of it, and if this hit you hard, it should, because this is where most good men get stuck. They're not weak, they're just wired to find identity in approval. But that wiring can be broken, rebuilt, replaced with clarity, calm, and self-leadership. And if that's what you want to build, subscribe now. This channel isn't for passive listeners. It's for men who are done explaining themselves, done begging to be seen and ready to own their presence. And if you're serious about leveling up, join the Brotherhood. Become a member and get access to deeper training, behind-the-scenes conversations, tools, and strategy we don't post publicly. No fluff, no gimmicks, just men becoming unshakable. So hit that subscribe button and step inside, because validation won't make you strong, but building yourself from the inside out, that will make you unforgettable. Number 5. Mystery beats consistency every time. Let's be real. If you've ever thought, I just need to show her I'm dependable, or if I keep being consistent, eventually she'll see my value, you're already losing the game. You don't even realize you're playing. Because when it comes to attraction, especially female attraction, mystery always beats consistency every single time. Now, I know that might sound wrong. We've all been fed the idea that being reliable, available, and steady is what makes a woman feel secure. And sure, consistency has its place, but here's what most guys miss. Consistency without polarity becomes monotony. You show up every day. You text good morning. You check in. You plan the dates. You compliment her constantly. You're consistent, predictable, safe. But slowly, without her even noticing, it starts to feel flat. Why? Because when a woman can predict everything you're going to say, do, or feel, she stops feeling anything. You don't excite her nervous system. You don't spark curiosity. You don't create emotional gravity. She knows what's coming before it even happens, and that kills desire. Let's break it down. Desire needs space. It needs contrast. It feeds off uncertainty, not insecurity, but the healthy kind of, I don't fully have him yet. The kind that makes her lean in, think about you, replay your words, wonder what you're thinking. Nice, consistent guys don't leave that gap. They fill it. They over-explain, over-text, over-commit, and leave nothing to the imagination. Meanwhile, the guy who texts back when he's ready, who doesn't overshare, who shows up unpredictably, but with intention, that guy leaves a trail of emotional tension. And that tension, that's the birthplace of attraction. Now let's be clear, mystery doesn't mean manipulation. It doesn't mean playing games or acting distant just to trigger a reaction. It's about maintaining a life, a rhythm, an identity that isn't entirely orbiting her. It's about being unavailable sometimes, not because you're trying to punish her, but because you're busy building something. It's about leaving some parts of you unspoken, not fake, just not on display 24/7. Here's a truth most men never hear: when you leave a woman with something to figure out, she becomes emotionally invested. Her thoughts return to you. She creates the storyline, the tension, and you didn't have to do anything except not overexpose yourself. Think about it. What keeps you hooked on a good movie? It's not knowing every detail. It's the suspense, the slow reveal, the unanswered question, the not quite knowing. Women operate on the same frequency, emotionally. But the nice guy, he shows the whole film in the trailer. No suspense, no edge. Just here I am, ready to be yours. And while that sounds noble, it kills polarity. Mystery keeps her curious. Consistency when overdone makes her comfortable, and comfort without attraction is a slow death. Stoicism hits this point perfectly. The Stoic man isn't performative. He's not showing off. He speaks less, observes more, acts deliberately, and most importantly, he doesn't explain himself unless it's necessary. Marcus Aurelius didn't write, "Make sure they understand you." He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." So don't explain the mystery. Don't ruin the edge by seeking approval. Don't trade your gravity for constant visibility. The strongest men know when to be seen and when to step back into the shadows. Comment below, "I've felt that." If you've ever seen the energy shift the moment you stopped being so available. And here's the thing, it's not about playing hard to get. It's about being hard to forget. When she doesn't know exactly where she stands with you, but she senses depth, confidence, and calm leadership, her mind starts to spiral. In a good way. She thinks about what you're doing, what you're thinking, what you'll say next. And that tension pulls her in. Mystery isn't about hiding, it's about holding. Holding space, holding power, holding back just enough to stay sharp in her mind. So sure, be consistent in your values, your mission, your direction. But don't confuse emotional exposure with intimacy. Don't confuse availability with magnetism. Mystery is your edge. Use it, and watch what happens next. Number 6. She wants to feel challenged, not worshipped. Let's get something straight. She doesn't want a fan. She wants a force. And if you think putting her on a pedestal, praising everything she does, and treating her like a flawless goddess will make her stay, you're in for a rude awakening. Because while that kind of worship might feel romantic to you, to her it feels hollow. Women don't crave perfection, they crave polarity. And polarity doesn't come from worship, it comes from challenge. Now, challenge doesn't mean arguing, nagging, or picking fights. That's immaturity. Real challenge is energetic. It's the vibe of, I'm not here to impress you. I'm here to meet you where you're strong and push you where you're soft. It's the ability to disagree with her without fearing she'll walk away. It's holding your frame when she tests your boundaries. It's calling her out not to hurt her ego, but to awaken her standards. Because whether she says it or not, she wants to feel something. And emotional tension, the right kind, is what keeps that spark alive. Let me ask you something. Have you ever gone out of your way to do everything for her? Always say the right thing, suppress what you really think, to keep the peace, only to watch her slowly lose interest. That's not bad luck, that's the worship trap. When a woman senses that you're molding yourself around her, never pushing back, never leading the way, she may enjoy the attention at first. But eventually the energy shifts. You become predictable, you become soft, you become easy to dominate. And no woman respects a man she can dominate. Attraction fades the moment she feels more masculine than you. And worship does exactly that. It flips the polarity. You stop being the grounded leader. You become the emotional follower. And even if she stays, she's already pulled away internally. Now, here's where challenge changes everything. When you challenge her mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you activate something deeper than surface-level attraction. You activate her growth instinct, her respect, her desire to rise to meet you. But again, challenge doesn't mean control. It's not about power trips. It's about standing strong in your own principles and inviting her to do the same. It's telling her, I hear you, but I don't agree, and not backing down when she throws attitude. It's saying no when she expects yes, not to punish her, but to show her that your attention is earned, not handed out like a trophy. It's holding space when she's emotional without trying to fix or please, but just being still, like a mountain. unshakable. That kind of presence, that's what makes her lean in. She doesn't want to be worshipped. She wants to feel like she's with someone who sees her clearly, flaws, edges, brilliance, all of it, and doesn't get lost in her beauty. Because when you see her without being blinded by her, she respects you. And when she respects you, everything changes. She listens differently, shows up differently, loves differently. And that's where Stoicism gives you an edge most men miss. Stoic men don't chase chaos. They don't idolize anyone, not even the woman they love. They walk into relationships with clear values, emotional control, a grounded sense of self. And in doing so, they naturally challenge the world around them, including her. Marcus Aurelius didn't say, "Flatter those who matter." He said, "Waste no time worrying what others think of you." So stop asking how to make her like you. Ask instead, am I living in a way that commands respect, even if no one claps for it? Comment below, "I've felt that." If you've ever lost someone by playing it too safe, too nice, too pleasing, because you weren't meant to be a worshipper. You were meant to be a mirror, reflecting strength back at her. Calmly, firmly, without apology. And here's the beautiful twist. When you challenge her, she feels more alive. She respects you more. She shows up more fully. And that connection, it doesn't burn out. It evolves. So stop playing small in hope she'll stay. Challenge her to rise. And if she can't, let her go. Because the man you're becoming doesn't worship women, he inspires them. Number 7. Being needed is not the same as being wanted. There's a dangerous illusion a lot of men fall for, and it's this idea that if she needs you, she'll stay. That being the one who solves her problems, lifts her up when she's down, helps her through life's mess, somehow earns you a place in her heart. It feels noble, masculine even. But here's the raw truth. Being needed is not the same as being wanted. In fact, sometimes it's the opposite. Because need creates dependency, and dependency is about survival, not desire. A woman might cling to you out of comfort, out of fear, out of convenience. But clinging isn't choosing. Clinging is survival. And trust me, that's not the energy you want to build attraction on. When someone needs you, it means you serve a purpose. When someone wants you, it means you are the purpose. And if you're honest with yourself, you've probably been on the receiving end of this. Maybe you were there when she had no one else. Maybe she cried on your shoulder, vented about her life, leaned on you financially or emotionally, and in that chaos you felt important. You felt chosen, needed. But as soon as she stabilized, when her life started coming back together, her energy changed. Suddenly she pulled back. You became less interesting. She didn't need you anymore. And that's when you realized she never truly wanted you. That's when it stings. Because you thought your presence meant something deeper. You thought showing up earned you a seat at the table. But all it did was make you useful. Useful doesn't mean magnetic. It doesn't mean valued for who you are. It means you were convenient, replaceable. Let that sink in. Stoicism teaches us to seek clarity, not comfort. And clarity means facing the fact that being someone's emotional crutch is not the same as being someone's emotional pull. So, how do you tell the difference? Here's the shift. When someone wants you, they engage with you when they don't have to. There's no crisis, no emotional breakdown. They reach for you out of desire, not desperation. They want your presence even when they're okay. They value your thoughts even when they're not broken. They come closer even when they have space. And you know what kind of man attracts that? The one who isn't trying to be needed. The man who isn't bending himself into usefulness but instead standing rooted in his identity. He's not waiting to fix someone to feel valuable. He's not chasing brokenness to feel strong. He simply exists with strength, and that energy pulls people in. Let me say it again. Being needed is about her lack. Being wanted is about your presence. When your worth is tied to how much someone needs you, you'll constantly seek out people who are unstable, chaotic, or emotionally fragile, because that's where you feel most important. But that's not power. That's a trap. Your value should never be defined by someone else's dysfunction. You want to be desired. Stop offering yourself as a solution. Start showing up as a standard, a man with boundaries. A man who walks away when the dynamic turns one-sided. A man who doesn't confuse pity with partnership. Because here's the hard truth. When you build a connection on being needed, you're building a time bomb. Eventually, she'll outgrow the phase where she needed you. And if the relationship was never rooted in real mutual desire, it will wither the moment she gets back on her feet. Comment below, I've seen this. If you've ever been dropped, the second she didn't need your support anymore. It's a painful lesson, but it's one that wakes you up, because once you see the pattern, you stop falling for the damsel in distress. You stop trying to prove your worth by being the fixer, and you start showing up like a man who offers value, not because someone lacks something, but because you're already full. That's the difference. And when a woman meets a man who doesn't need to be needed, but is still deeply present, deeply masculine, deeply whole, that's when real attraction begins. So no, don't try to be her rock because she's sinking. Be the mountain that stands either way. Wanted, not used, never again mistaken for a tool. Number 8. The less you react, the more she feels. Here's something nobody told you growing up. The man who doesn't react is the one she can't stop thinking about. Sounds simple, but let's unpack it. In relationships, most guys are taught to be emotionally available, to respond quickly, validate often, and never let her feel uncertain for too long. The idea is, if you're always present and emotionally open, she'll feel secure and loved. But in reality, that kind of hyper-responsiveness often backfires. Why? Because emotions, especially female emotions, don't thrive in full stability, they thrive in polarity. And one of the most powerful elements of polarity is restraint. Now, don't get this twisted. Restraint isn't coldness, it's not shutting down or ghosting, it's calm. It's the ability to observe instead of react, to absorb pressure without losing center, to stay still when she's testing your frame. And believe me, she will test it. Because on some level, every woman wants to know, can I move him? Can I shake his center? Can I pull an emotional reaction out of this man? If the answer is yes, if every mood swing, every delay in text, every flirt with withdrawal gets a rise out of you, she stops seeing you as a rock and starts seeing you as another wave in her emotional ocean. But if the answer is no, if you remain composed, thoughtful, measured, suddenly the energy shifts. She's the one leaning in. Because that calm, that non-reaction, that's masculine tension. It's emotional gravity. And it makes her feel more than any emoji-filled text or 3-paragraph voice note ever could. It's the space where curiosity lives, where she wonders what you're thinking, where your silence says more than words. And that tension, that's the spark. That's what makes her feel. Now here's the part most guys don't understand. Reacting quickly often comes from insecurity, not care. You're afraid of losing her attention. You're afraid of silence. You're afraid of not fixing the mood right away. But that fear energy leaks. And once she smells that she knows, she's the emotional leader. And let me tell you, if she becomes the leader in the emotional space, she may stay with you physically, but emotionally, she's already started detaching. Women want to feel led, not managed. And leadership isn't control, it's direction, calm, intention, silence when needed, If she's upset and you rush in with frantic apologies, she doesn't feel safe. She feels like she's with a boy trying not to get in trouble. But if you look her in the eyes grounded and say, "I hear you, take your time," you've just brought masculine energy into the room. You didn't run, you didn't chase, you didn't react, you responded. That's power. The less you react, the more she feels. Not because you're playing games, but because your non-reaction creates space. And in that space she processes, she reflects, she questions, she wonders. And in that wondering she feels drawn to you. Think about it. When's the last time you felt pulled towards someone who was calm under pressure, who didn't flinch, who didn't get emotionally tossed around? It's magnetic. The Stoics call this ataraxia, inner tranquility. The ability to remain unshaken even in the middle of emotional storms. It's not about being numb. It's about being unfazed by the things that don't deserve your energy. That includes petty arguments, passive-aggressive texts, emotional baiting, tests that try to trigger you into proving your value. You don't prove value with reactions. You prove it with presence, with discipline, with stillness. Comment below, "I've felt that." If you've ever lost control just trying to keep her close and felt emptier after. Look if she knows exactly how to push your buttons, you've handed her the remote. But when you take it back, not by being cold but by staying solid, you stop being easy to provoke and start becoming impossible to forget. Because when she can't move you like every other guy, she starts to respect you. And when that respect sets in, desire follows. So breathe, pause, let silence work for you. She doesn't need your instant reaction. She needs your unshakable presence. Number 9. If she doesn't earn you, she won't value you. Let's stop lying to ourselves for a second. You've been told that to win a woman over you need to show her how much you care. Be available. Be generous. Be consistent. Basically, just be there. And while those things aren't wrong, they're not what makes her stay. Here's the brutal truth. If she doesn't have to earn you, she won't value you. That might sting, but deep down you've seen it play out. You gave her your time, your energy, your heart, maybe even your money. You put her first before yourself, before your goals, sometimes before your own self-respect. And at first she seemed grateful, responsive, maybe even affectionate. But then the shift happened. Slowly she got colder, more distant, less impressed, less invested. And you were left wondering, what did I do wrong? The answer you gave before she earned. And people, men or women, don't treasure what comes too easily. When you give away your presence, your attention, your commitment without any challenge, without making her show up for it, she subconsciously files you under available by default. And you never want to be default. You want to be a reward, not a consolation prize. Now here's what most guys get wrong. They think making her earn them means playing hard to get or acting distant. That's not it. It's deeper. It's about living by standards, not rules. It's about knowing exactly what kind of energy gets access to you. You're not trying to punish her. You're not creating hoops for her to jump through. You're simply showing her that your time, presence, and commitment are reserved for women who meet you with equal energy, honesty, and effort. That's what earning you looks like. Because a woman can like you, she can be attracted to you, but if she didn't have to bring anything to the table to keep you, she won't see you as a high-value man. She'll see you as someone hoping to be chosen. And the moment you start hoping to be chosen, you lose your edge. A man who knows his worth doesn't chase affection. He doesn't prove himself through overgiving. He lets women reveal themselves through their investment, through how they treat his time, through how consistent they are, through what they offer without being asked. And when a woman earns access to that man, she values him, she respects him, because she worked for it, because she felt the cost of getting close to him. This is why casual flings fade so quickly. There's no process, no tension, no building, just easy access. And with easy access comes fast burnout. But when a woman senses that your attention isn't for sale, that it's not tossed around, that it has to be earned, suddenly she's awake, engaged, curious. She wonders, what is it about this man that makes him so grounded in his value? That's when attraction deepens, not just in her body, but in her mind. Stoicism backs this up hard. A Stoic man doesn't chase pleasure or people. He knows his peace comes from within. He doesn't seek validation or hand out his presence like candy. He moves with intention, and that intention draws people in slowly, powerfully, irresistibly. Comment below, I felt that. If you've ever given too much too soon and watched her pull away, it's a painful wake-up, but also a necessary one, because now you get to flip the dynamic. You stop being the guy who overgives and start being the man who sets the bar. Not to play games, not to prove anything, but because you finally understand that your value isn't something to be handed over, it's something to be met. And if she's not ready to meet you there, you don't lower yourself to keep her interested, you rise. And she either rises with you or fades quietly behind you. Number 10. Emotional detachment is your superpower. Let's end this with one of the most misunderstood and most powerful traits a man can develop: emotional detachment. Now I know what you're thinking. Doesn't that make me cold, unfeeling, distant number? Not if you understand it the right way. Emotional detachment isn't about shutting down. It's not about pretending you don't care or turning into some robotic, stone-faced monk. That's not strength. That's avoidance. Real detachment is something else entirely. It's the ability to feel deeply without being ruled by what you feel. It's the power to stay grounded even when emotions are running high, especially in relationships, especially when it hurts, and yes, especially when it comes to her. Because here's what most men don't realize: the more emotionally hooked you are on her reactions, her attention, her validation, the more control she has over you. The more you respond to every silence, every mood swing, every "we need to talk," the more your center shifts. You stop leading, you start chasing, you stop standing in your frame, you start spiraling in her world. And that right there is where most good men lose their power. Emotional detachment gives you that power back. It allows you to pause instead of panic, to sit with discomfort without needing to fix it, to watch her pull away and not collapse inside, to face rejection, ghosting, hot and cold behavior, and not lose yourself in it. It's what makes you unpredictable. Not because you're playing games, but because you're not emotionally dependent. And emotional independence, that's magnetic. Here's the paradox: the man who needs her love to feel whole will never get her full respect. But the man who can walk away, who values his peace above her approval, is the one she can't stop thinking about. That's what Stoicism trains you for. Not numbness, strength. Detachment means you observe your emotions without letting them run your life. It means you acknowledge the pain, the frustration, even the desire, but you don't act on it like a puppet on strings. You choose your moves. And in a world where most people are reacting constantly, a man who chooses, he's rare, he's valuable. He becomes the eye in the storm, calm, focused, immovable. That's the man she respects. That's the man she follows. But here's the trick: emotional detachment isn't built overnight. It's trained. Every time you don't text back just to get a reaction, you're training. Every time you sit with discomfort, instead of demanding instant resolution, you're sharpening the edge. Every time you let her have space without begging, without chasing, without shrinking, you're becoming dangerous. In the best possible way. Because now she can't manipulate you with silence. She can't control you with withdrawal. She can't push your buttons. Because you've taken them off the table, you're in control. Comment below, I want this. If you're done letting your emotions get played and you're ready to build something deeper than reaction. Because the moment you become emotionally independent, everything shifts. Now when she texts you, respond from choice, not need. Now when she's distant, you stay centered, not frantic. Now when things get rocky, you're the anchor, and she feels that. In her body, in her breath, in how she looks at you differently. Because emotional detachment isn't a wall, it's a throne. You don't need to protect yourself from her. You need to protect your peace from your own weakness. You need to choose stillness over drama, clarity over chaos, yourself over the temporary high of being wanted by someone who doesn't truly see your worth. That's what makes you elite. So no, you're not too cold. You're just too grounded to be thrown around anymore. And that's your superpower. Use it. You made it to the end. That alone tells me something. You're not here for quick tricks. You're here to evolve. Because at the core of all this emotional detachment, boundaries, presence, it's not about women. It's about you. The man you choose to be when no one's clapping, when she pulls away, when life doesn't hand you what you want. That's where real masculinity gets forged. So if you're ready to build that version of yourself, not just talk about it, this channel is where it happens. Hit subscribe, join the brotherhood. And if you're serious about leveling up your mindset, presence and power, join our Stoic members community. That's where we go even deeper. No fluff, no distractions. Just men doing the real inner work. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, stay calm, stay dangerous, and never hand your power to anyone.